174 straight days of Clippers talk for everyone. Welcome in. I'm Adam Osland, fresh off the Clippers' 13-point victory last night in New York over the Knicks. Some really positive signs from Kawhi Leonard in the ballgame. Was just reviewing the tape as I think Jamal Christopher posted it. People are jumping in here. Here we go. Adam R. DG Mari is in here. Where's Clay Vaughn at? There's Clay Vaughn. We're going to review some of the post-game sound, and we'll get answers about Amir Coffey. I think partially this is just, guys, when they're fully healthy, Amir Coffey is going to be out in the playoff rotation. I think that's pretty obvious. We've talked about that for a while. All right. So the post-game audio we're going to play is coming from Law Murray of The Athletic last night. He was at MSG, joined me pregame. He was and has been, for the most part, the lone reporter on the road with this team consistently. So let's start things off hearing from Coach Lue post-game.
So, started that game, y'all were down 14. What do you feel like was the challenge just starting the game, and what do you feel like was the cause for?
I just realized I didn't have. I knew I was forgetting something. It's too early. I didn't have my machine plugged in. Hold on. Let me get the sound right. Because I'm a fucking moron. All right. Now I got the sound card. Now you'll be able to hear Coach Lue clearly. I apologize. Mistakes are made often. Here we go.
What's up? You know when you're ready to go.
Ready?
All right, so starting that game, y'all were down 14. What do you feel like was the challenge just starting the game, and what do you feel like was the cause for turning that game around?
Yeah, I thought offensively we didn't do a good job of just reading what they were doing. We got to the paint. It was sending 5 guys to the paint, so we're trying to drop off the zoo, we're trying to finish, and the kickouts were available to pull behinds, which we had to do a better job with. And then defensively, we allowed 11 back cuts for 22 points in the first half.
The back cuts have been an issue at times this season. Gonza's in here. Cortez is in here. What's up, guys? Co's in here. You guys like this Clippers talk in the AM, I guess. Back to Coach Lue.
So we just talked about at halftime. We want to make sure we send everything up, make a run through your chest. We don't want to get out and deny and extend our defense. And so I thought in the second half, once we did that and made those adjustments, we were a lot better. And then, like you said, only having 5 turnovers for the game was key and huge for us as well.
Yeah, I'd say only having 5 turnovers. I think that was a season low. Is a pretty big deal.
You look at that fast break. You talked about pushing the pace, and there's 2 parts to that. You got to push the pace, get back, and how that second unit is going to be a key part of that. 14-2 on fast break. Does that speak to that execution of that second unit, or was there something else in play there?
No, I think they just played the game. We talked about just if we don't have it with the quick push, we got to make sure we are getting to our next actions. And I thought he did a better job with that tonight. And just that thing defensively, being able to switch 1 through 5 and switching our coverages. I thought Brendan O'Connor did a great job of just we started Zoo on Hart, and then it kind of hurt us. It was kind of like all over the place, and then put him on Cat, and we switched to put him on different people, just try to keep him off balance. So I thought BLC did a really good job with that. And, talk about filling in for me. What B-Shaw did, the job he did. Brandon O'Connor filling in for JBG has done an awesome job as well. And so hats off to, like I said, our coaching staff for just, sticking with it.
They did put Ivica Zubats on different guys, keeping him a moving target out there because Cat was too quick for him at times. Like the first possession, he was on Cat. The second possession, it was Kawhi on Cat, Zoo on Hart. So they were constantly switching things up. More from Coach Lue post game last night after the Clippers 126-113 victory in New York at MSG over the Knicks.
You said you want to play through your stars like Kawhi and James, like 13 assists, 2 turnovers. The Buckies, like the way James played overall, even with the injury considered, like did you achieve that ideal of playing through them and like how do you feel like those guys, got through this game?
Yeah, I mean, once, we're healthy, once we're whole, we know we're going to play through, James and Kawhi and just get them in their spots and how we want to play and how we want to play through those guys. And then with that comes a lot of responsibility of making the right play. Once we're playing through you, Kawhi having 7 assists, James having 7 assists. Most times he has 10 assists. And so just making the right play, when the play is called for you. And like I said, Norm, is finally starting to get his rhythm after being out for a while. And, Zoo's being Zoo, so we're going to need everybody. Like I told the guys tonight, after the game, we just got to win games, and it's just tough decisions as a coach, like I said, having to talk to Amir earlier today and telling Amir he's not going to play.
So there's the Amir Coffey answer for you. Tough decision earlier today. Told Amir Coffey he wasn't going to play. I think Amir will be the odd man out the majority of the time if you're talking about cutting down the rotation in a playoff series.
Coach, like I said, having to talk to Amir earlier today and telling Amir he's not going to play. Those are tough decisions because he's been playing great all year, but we got to start shortening our rotations, and guys understand that. And if we want to win at a high level, we need guys to sacrifice like Amir and the rest of our guys. So that's what it's going to take.
That is what it's going to take. Some people aren't going to like that, but I think it makes sense. You can only play so many guys, and Amir, while he's had a good year offensively, especially from 3, he has struggled at times defensively. He's not a playmaker out there. He is good in transition. He is good shooting the 3. He's got a little turnaround jumper, but outside of that stuff, he doesn't offer much else. He's been hunted a lot defensively the last few months. He has been. He's had a down year in some ways defensively. And when you have Kawhi there, when you have Norm, when you have James, when you have Ivica Zubac, do you really need what he offers offensively so much? Not necessarily. And Bogey, I mean, he's earning minutes that might have gone to Amir before, but he can run high pick and roll. He offers a lot more. That's just what it is. It's unfortunate, but like Coach Lue said, you want to win at a high level, guys going to have to sacrifice.
But you want to keep talking, man?
I was just going, when it comes to a guy like Amir, like dude's only missed 2 games and everything. Like you say, sacrifice. Like, how did he take that? Like, does he understand like what's got to happen between,
Yeah, I mean, he still got to stay ready. Like,
right.
Come Cleveland might start. So you just got to stay ready. He's always stay ready.
Stay ready.
Start. So
in between,
Yeah, I mean, he still got to stay ready.
Right.
Come Cleveland might start. So you just got to stay ready. He's always stay ready. And that's why he's one of my favorite guys. Just coming here, going through the G League system. 2-way, earning the contract and earning a bigger contract. Now he's on his way to even a bigger contract now. So just staying ready. A guy that we've took up on our wing and we've grown here with the Clippers and we love him. So he's going to be okay. He's going to have opportunity to play, for sure. And Nico does a great job of just being physical and trying to take Big Cat out of the game. And just different matchups are going to be different nights. And so we'll see going forward.
There was Coach Lue on Amir Coffey. You guys wanted to know what the deal was. There it is right there. Odd man out last night. Nico made more sense to be playing. Might not be like that every night, but I think majority of the time, if they're healthy in a 7-game series, Amir's likely going to be the odd man out. Here's James Harden postgame.
First, just congrats on just being able to make it and play as well as he did. Make it here, play well. and do what you said you was going to do. You said if you can play, you're going to play, and if not, you was going to sit down. So what did it take to get yourself, in a position to not just play but excel on the way that you
Basketball. I'm doing it for a very long time at the highest level, so it's no different.
What got you going in that third quarter? Like I saw you got a block on Tyler Kolek, and then you hit like 4 threes in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Like, what got you going?
It was time to open the game up. We had took the lead, gained the lead back. We kept going back and forth. We got stopped, so it's time for me to be a little bit aggressive, which I hadn't had really throughout the course of the game. I made some shots.
He started being more aggressive once Kawhi came out of the ball game. This was around the 3-minute mark, I think, of the third. James Harden knew he had carte blanche. It was time to take over. He hit 3 straight threes. Then he created an open 3 for Nico Batum. So the Clippers hit 4 in 4 straight possessions. Opened the game up, got up by 10 heading into the fourth. And Kawhi took the baton from there. He scored the first 10 points of the fourth quarter for the Clippers. This is all coming from La Murray on Blueski from last night. He was there at MSG.
And then I just want to ask you about Kawhi. Like, he had 7 assists, no turnovers, in addition to all the buckets. Like, being able to play through him and everything, y'all playing together. Like, how did you felt like he's continued to progress this month? And
he looks like how he's supposed to look. And the more he looks like that, continue to look like that, we'll feed off him, vice versa. Like, I'll feed off him, he'll feed off me.
Ooh, this is interesting. The more he continues to look like that, we'll feed off him.
And the more he looks like that, continue to look like that, we'll feed off him, vice versa.
And vice versa.
Like, I'll feed off him, he'll feed off me. And then Zoo gets involved, and then it just trickle down. So
trickle down, top down basketball, trickle down economics, shot distribution. I don't know. This is not a political statement. It's the hierarchy of how things work. If Kawhi looks that good, James is saying, yeah, we'll be feeding off him.
And the more he looks like that, continue to look like that, we'll feed off him, vice versa. Like, I'll feed off him, he'll feed off me. And then Zoo gets involved, and then it just trickle down. So I don't even know what game is this that he's been playing, but we still a fairly new team in the sense of adding Bogey and figuring out our lineups, adding Ben. So we'll continue to get better individually, and then the more we talk and communicate, I think it'll help our team as well. Team as well.
There was James Harden post game. More from James Harden on his 3-point dance.
Also, what's your favorite 3-point celebration? After one, you had some kind of dance or something out there. Like, what's been your favorite one this year?
I don't know.
Here comes Ben Simmons.
I'm watching the dance right now as Law posted it. I know, it was just... I can't even describe what he's doing there. Here's Kawhi Leonard post game. We got BJ Matthews coming up. Here's Kawhi in the locker room post game with La Murray.
I think this is the most assists you've had all season without a turnover. T. said before the game he wants to focus on playing through guys who, high on the pecking order. Like, you and James were those guys. Like, how did it feel out there, not just scoring, but setting your teammates up without making any turnover mistakes?
It was great. Been trying to do that all year. Just played how they played us tonight. They pretty much packed the paint. They sent the double team, trusted my teammates. They knocked down shots. James did a great job of pushing us at the end of that third and propelling us to the win.
That second unit had a...
Kawhi talking about what we just spoke to. He comes out of the game. James took over the end of the third. Then Kawhi took over to start the fourth.
Night, they pretty much packed the paint. They sent the double team, trusted my teammates. They knocked down shots. James did a great job of pushing us at the end of that third and propelling us to the win.
That second unit had a really good night, and you guys expanded the lead, gave yourself a chance to comfortably control the game. Like, what's it been like adjusting, playing with those guys, especially Ben?
Finally, that's been a struggle for me and for us.
Oh, this is great. The guys to start the second quarter did better. The guys of that unit with Kawhi, he's been talking about they need to be better for a while.
Gave yourself a chance to, comfortably control the game. Like, what's it been like adjusting, playing with those guys, especially Ben?
Finally, that's been a struggle for me and for us coming in that second quarter. And tonight we was able to do well at the start of that fourth. And like you said, we made shots, we played great defense, and we was able to get a lead.
Now, a lot of that was just Kawhi taking over to start that fourth quarter, as he did have their first 10 points of the period. But to be specific of who was out there at the beginning of that fourth quarter, where the Clippers ended up getting up by 19 points. I want to find my notes here, make sure I bring this up and am accurate. So it was Batum, Kawhi, Simmons, Bogey, and DJ. I like that. Anytime you go small, I always love seeing Batum in there. But Batum, Kawhi, and Simmons, having those three guys. So two guys that are 6'9", 6'10" in Batum and Simmons. Kawhi is 6'7". Like, I've stood next to MJ. I've stood next to Kawhi. MJ's closer to 6'4" than 6'6". Kawhi's closer to 6'7" than 6'6". That is a large small ball lineup. I know it sounds like an oxymoron, but it's a bigger, smaller lineup. Bogey, DJ's in there with his length. I know he's listed at 6'6", but he can jump out of the gym, long arms. That works. It also works when Kawhi hits a three-pointer and OG Anunoby's face immediately. One of the better defenders in the league and a guy that has modeled his game after Kawhi. Seems like every time Kawhi goes up against a guy like that, he has something to prove against them, kind of like with Dyson Daniels in Atlanta. It's like, no, this is what a defensive player of the year looks like. But he was cooking OG, hit a mid-range over him. Shaman had to foul him. I mean, they couldn't stop him. The fall away over Bridges. He scored 10 straight to start the fourth quarter, and they're up 104-91. So, yeah, that lineup was better, and Kawhi absolutely took over in ways he wasn't doing earlier when he first came back. I think last night was game 28 or 29 for him. But that was Kawhi post game. On with Law Murray. Appreciate Law for the work that he does always. And especially he's out there on the road with this squad getting those post-game interviews. Otherwise, we don't get this audio, guys. Like, if he's not there, we're not getting anything. So credit to Law. He's been the lone media member that has consistently been traveling with the team. And now he's on Blue Sky. Is Blue Sky like the slang for it? I don't know, but it was really good to get this audio. I was worried we wouldn't have any, but Law, per usual, held it down. You got the answer regarding Amir Coffey here post game that I know a lot of people are looking for. It's what it is. Amir's going to be the odd man out a lot. Law followed up because I know a lot of people are going to be scratching their heads wondering why Amir Coffey didn't play last night, wondering why he got the DNP. Coach Lou spoke with him pregame. But it makes sense to me. Like, it's a numbers game. It's a minutes crunch. Love Amir, but defensively this season, gotta say, he has not been at his best. He's been picked on. He's been fouling a lot. It's something where I was a little bit surprised because throughout most of his career, he's been a solid defender. I thought he was last year close to the level that T-Man was at. But man was much better in the playoff series, obviously, against Dallas. And Amir really struggled in that playoff series. So you want to know how lineups could go in the postseason and who could be the odd man out? Last night's game, with 10 games remaining, was a pretty good indicator of how Coach Lou's going to run things. And look, I agree with it. I thought Amir would be the odd man out. He was. You can only play so many guys out there. Just the way it is. They went to a 9-man rotation basically last night with your starting lineup of Kawhi, Harden, Powell, Zoo, Chris Dunn, and then Nico, Bogey, Ben Simmons, and DJ off the bench. I know Drew Eubanks got in for a minute at the very end of the game, him, Kobe Brown, and Patty Mills, but that was garbage time after the Clippers put it away with that three-pointer that Norman Powell hit. So I think they might have something, hopefully, with the guys they started the fourth quarter with Batum, Kawhi, Simmons, Bogey, and DJ. They really have to be better at the start of second quarters, at the start of fourth quarters. It's been a recurring issue for this team. That would be quite a win for them if they could figure that out. To start the second quarter, they started Zubats. They didn't start him to start the fourth. They started Batum. Batum in this game, because of Cat's quickness and what a good defender he is on him, made a lot of sense. But the second quarter did not get off to a great start for the Clippers still, but the fourth did. And that's why Kawhi was like, finally. He has been talking about it for a while. They need to be better. He said he needs to be better to start those second quarters, to start those fourth quarters. Ali said exactly the length and size of that lineup and defensive IQ is perfect for a small ball lineup. Yeah, I mean, you have 3 guys 6'7" and above, and 2 of them are 6'9" and 6'10", in Batum and Ben Simmons. Ton of switchability there. Ton of switchability with DJ. The lone guy that obviously doesn't have that ability is Bogey, but he can bring the ball up. He can run pick and roll. I'm interested in exploring that more. Jonathan Ing in here. These lives keep coming. Yes, they do. MG said it's going to be matchup dependent. There will be a time we need Amir. Of course. I'm not saying he's completely out. Coach Lou didn't say that. Because of his shot making, yeah, Jonathan brings it up too. There's going to be times where they need Amir to get out there and look for his shot. He's had a good season overall. He's shooting 40% from 3. But somebody was going to be out. I bet he plays against Brooklyn on Friday. That's my guess. I wonder, I mean, James Harden looked so damn good last night. Maybe it doesn't matter now, but I thought maybe James would play the game against New York and then rest him against Brooklyn. No disrespect to the Nets, but they're not exactly playing to win this season. They're playing for Cooper Flag. Oh, God. Bastian Schweinsteiger's in here. Oh, God. The mush. The mush is in here now. A guy who has talked a lot of junk about Kawhi Leonard all season. And now still not admitting how good Kawhi looks. Let's hear from the mush here. This is what he sounds like.
Eddie Mush was a degenerate gambler. He was also the biggest loser in the whole world. They called him Mush because everything he touched turned to mush. Eddie Mush was a degenerate gambler. He was also the biggest loser in the whole world. They called him Mush because everything he touched turned to mush.
That's Bastian Schweinsteiger. I called him out free TV last night. And somebody else who will be joining us in just a moment. Because if I call somebody out, it's only fair they come on the show. BJ Matthews is joining us here in a second. Text him that we're ready for him. The biggest loser.
Eddie Mush was a degenerate gambler. He was also the biggest loser in the whole world. They called him Mush because everything he touched turned to mush.
People commenting a lot about how today's show was a lot earlier. Yeah. But the streak is alive all the same. 174 straight days.
Streaky! Yeah! We're going streaky! Yeah!
I kind of like doing the early shows. We still got a show later on tonight, I think, with clips and dips. So the grind does not stop. It doesn't.
I don't know. What did the numbers say? Shit.
Kawhi, it says we've done 174 straight days of Clippers talk here. MG said during the trade deadline, we were ripping the front office. Who was we? Who's we? Y'all were. Some of you. I sure wasn't. I knew how good Bogey was. I might have to ask BJ about that. Amir will be in a lot of the team's rotations, and right now he's outside looking in. Well, they needed Batum against Cat. They're going with a 9-man rotation. Amir was going to be the odd man out. The Kawhi clip trying the reverse dunk. It's out there. You can find it. That was serious. The blow by on Hart in the first half on the left wing going to his left. Ooh, that was tough. Terry said, did Stephen A. Smith have comments on the Knicks losing to us? Yeah, he's too busy I think it's a real beef with Kawhi at this point. He called him out for not being at Kobe's memorial service. He was there. You dumbass. I think he asked for the cameras not to be on him to take away from it. Like, you absolute fool, Stephen A. I know any news is good news when it comes to him beefing with Kawhi, and this is all good for ratings. Oh my God, does he look stupid, and so does ESPN. Can we get back to real journalism, please? LeBron gets the game winner on him last night. Beefing with LeBron just makes no sense. LeBron was on Pat McAfee for an hour yesterday, rubbing it in Stephen A. Smith's face. Enjoying him, not Stephen A. Co said, not to look too far out, but do you think Kawhi will play the Houston game, not the San Antonio, since it's the last home game, first game I'm going to at Intuit Dome? It's too far out, man. I can't say right now. I don't know which game he's playing against the back-to-back with the Cavs in Orlando coming up. So every back-to-back but one, he has played the front end and not the second game in the back-to-back. That's how it's been so far. So Sunday, Monday is that back-to-back in Cleveland and then in Orlando. They beat Cleveland. I would play him against Orlando. Cleveland's going to get up for that game. They're going to want revenge. They're trying to turn things around after they actually lost 4 games in a row. One of those losses being against the Clippers. I would probably play him against the Magic, but I don't know. This could be more about keeping him in a rhythm and playing him every other day. So he plays Friday tomorrow, then Saturday off, then he plays Sunday again. I don't know if it's down to a strategy of, going up against a certain matchup rather than just keeping Kawhi, keeping the body warm. That could be a part of this. I don't know. How far do I think they can go in the playoffs? Well, if Kawhi's healthy, I think they got a chance against pretty much anyone in a 7-game series, like I've been saying for a while. All I said was back in November, they get Kawhi back to being last year's version. They're dangerous with how good they've been defensively. He would magically turn them into a top 10 offense. So that's happened. In fact, since Kawhi was asking about it,
I don't know. What did the numbers say? Shit.
what do the numbers say? Last 15 games for the Clippers, where I think Kawhi has only missed 2 of them. Their offensive rating the last 15 games is 4th. Their defensive rating is 10th. Their net rating is 5th. That's championship level stuff. That's what you're looking for. Top 10 in both areas. Waiting for BJ Matthews here. I know you guys say he's the biggest Harden hater. We'll talk about that. I called him out last night. So if I call somebody out, you got to be ready to face him. So I invited him on the show today. But these numbers.
I don't know. What did the numbers say? Shit.
5th in net rating last 15 games. What if we just go back the last 10 games? So they're 10-5 over their last 15. If we go last 10 games, Clippers have the number 1 offense in the league.
I don't know. What did the numbers say? Shit.
They say, Kawhi, you have the number 1 offense in the league the last 10 games. And defensively, they're 4th. That's the ticket. Second best net rating over that time, only to OKC. That's it. This is the formula. That tells you how good they've been playing. Bastian Schweinsteiger is an absolute troll. He's getting put in timeout. Don said Amir over Dunn, split the damn minutes. No. Dunn has an elite skill set that Amir does not have on either end of the ball. What Dunn does defensively, Amir doesn't replicate on defense, nor is he as good as Dunn is on defense on the offensive end to justify that. Sorry, Don, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Dunn is a elite defensive specialist. And it doesn't mean he has to play 40 minutes a game. He played 29 last night. But the way, they don't have the defensive rating they do this season without him. He's that good at setting the tone on defense. MG said real journalism doesn't get eyeballs. If it was up to me, I'd rather have Adam Osland on First Take than the Talking Heads. Wouldn't mind, but I don't care about the lazy, low information, hot take stuff they go with. That doesn't interest me. It's easy. It's a dime a dozen. I actually want to talk about the game. That's what interests me. But that doesn't get as high of ratings. So people are talking about we get hot at the right time. They have been with 10 games remaining. And we can look at the remaining schedule with the Clippers now in the 6th spot in the Western Conference. So how do they hold on to it? First of all, if the playoffs started today, they'd be taking on the Denver Nuggets in the first round. That's not great. Denver is a game and a half behind Houston in the standings. I'm wondering who has the tiebreaker between those two teams. I need to look up their head-to-head record this season to see that.
I don't know. What did the numbers say? Shit.
What do the numbers say? I'm looking it up right now. What has happened in head-to-head meetings between Denver and Houston? Houston won the first game. Let's see here. Denver won the second game, so they're 1-1. Ooh, and they have one game to go, and it's the final game of the regular season.
I don't know. What did the numbers say? Shit.
Wow. Just like the Clippers taking on Golden State, that could have major seeding implications. The final game of the regular season. Denver is at Houston, the final game of the regular season, with the head-to-head tiebreaker on the line. That could determine who's second, who's third. That is juicy. That is interesting. People are saying we need the 5th seed. It could happen. The Memphis Grizzlies have been struggling, but they did win their last game. They're currently 5. The Clippers are 3 games behind them, though. But you look at strength of schedule. Memphis has the 5th toughest schedule remaining. The Clippers, the 16th. Lakers have the 4th toughest schedule remaining. Clippers, the 16th. Houston, the 9th toughest. Denver, the 11th. So all of a sudden, the Clippers have an easier schedule than a lot of these teams. The problem is, yes, they have an easier schedule than Golden State. They have the 12th toughest schedule. Clippers 16th, but Minnesota has the 26th toughest schedule, meaning the 5th easiest schedule remaining. My prediction a couple weeks ago when I went through the standings was that Minnesota would end up the 6th seed based upon having the easier schedule between them, the Clippers, the Golden State Warriors. What I didn't know was Golden State would lose Steph Curry. Injuries happen. That has changed things. And the Clippers currently are in that 6th spot. They have the same record as Golden State at 41-31, but they've beaten them 3 times, so they have the head-to-head tiebreaker with 1 game remaining, the final game of the regular season. There is so much on the line. It is going to get so interesting here. Waiting for BJ Matthews to join the show. I think he's still planning on it. He hasn't texted me back yet. Pull up. Pull up, the man with the pull-up podcast. We here. I talked some trash about him last night. It was all in good fun. Sometimes I just do that to see who's listening. I talk trash about Bastion, free TV as well. So the Minnesota Timberwolves are currently a half game behind the Clippers and Golden State. They have the tiebreaker over the Clippers, obviously. Do they have the tiebreaker over Golden State, Minnesota? I want to see this. Let's see here, guys. So they split the first 2 games. They lost the next game. So they do not. Yeah, Golden State has the tiebreaker. They went 3-1 against Minnesota this year. That's interesting. So let's say that those 3 teams end up with the same record. Let's say it is a 3-way tie. If 3 or more teams are tied, compare the combined record of each of the tied teams against the other teams involved in the tie until an advantage is gained. Somebody else gonna have to figure that out for me. I can't.
I don't know. What did the numbers say? Shit.
Not right now. F said Warriors shaking in their boots. Don't let the Clippers get hot. Too late. They've won 9 of 11. Easily could be 10 of 11. Easily could be 11 straight. The Pelicans game, the OKC game. Easily could have won 11 straight. Need the Grizz to keep falling. The Grizzlies have a significantly tougher schedule than the Clippers. They still got OKC, Boston, Denver, the Lakers, Warriors, Detroit coming up. The Clippers have the 3 toughest teams they have remaining, the Cavs, the Rockets, Golden State. They don't see Boston again. They don't see Denver again. They don't see OKC again. There is a chance they could catch Memphis. And the Clippers have the tiebreaker over them. I think it would be tough to be a game better than Memphis, but same record, Clippers would move in front of them. Just feels like things are going to get that close. Teams just need to lock in so we get the 5th seed. DFJ said, here to support my brother BJ. I'm here to support him too. My fault. Can I come on in 10? Come on, BJ. Yes. Hurry up, bro. BJ will be here in 10 minutes, guys. Gary Payton II is out for the Warriors, too. Too close to call in the West standings. Yes. Very, very much so. And we still have a chance to pass the Lakers.
I hate the Lakers. I hate the Lakers. I hate the Lakers.
The Lakers getting that victory last night was big for them. Man, didn't have to happen like that. Box out Kawhi. Come on, Indiana. Box out Kawhi. So the Lakers currently are 3 games better, and they have the tiebreaker against the Clippers, so it's really 4. It's going to be tough to chase them down. Easier to chase down Memphis because the Clippers, while 3 games back, have the tiebreaker against them. I still want to see Houston in the first round. I'd rather see them versus the Denver Nuggets or the Lakers. For me, it goes, if Memphis ain't going to be able to be in that 2 spot, and it doesn't look like it now because they've been sliding and their schedule's too tough, Houston to me is the next best option in the 2 or the 3 spot, depending on if the Clippers finish 7th or 6th. That's what I'm looking at. It's no disrespect. They're good. It would go at least 6 games. They could beat the Clippers. They could. But it's just the best of the worst options. They're all bad options. Well, then check your email. BJ, I sent you the email, the link. Get in here. I'm sure I want the Rockets over the Nuggets or the Lakers. I don't love it. People talking about regular season contests between the Clippers and Rockets. Like, first of all, the Clippers didn't even have Kawhi in any of those games.
I don't know. What did the numbers say? Shit.
They didn't have this guy. They didn't have Kawhi in those games.
Yes, sir.
You want to talk about losses to the Rockets without your best player? Enjoy. I don't think that's good analysis. Kling said, honestly, Kawhi healthy, I like my chances with anybody in the West, but we need that 5th seed to make noise. It's about matchups. I'm not going to say they need a particular seed. I'm looking at who they will get in that first round series, more so than anything. Clipser Daz says, I don't want to see Luka in the first round again. Who would? Especially next to LeBron now. Jonathan Ing said, I'm less scared of the Nuggets because of their lack of bench. Of course, we're all less scared of them this season. The whole Russell Westbrook thing, you look at the on-off splits with him, they're not good. They're better with him off the floor. Terry said, I have no fear against Houston. F said, no offense to them, but Clips versus anyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I do think the Rockets' defense will translate to the playoffs, but is their offense also going to translate? Because their offense is not great. I think the Rockets are good. This is a decision between wanting to play them or the Lakers or the Nuggets. Those are the 3 most likely teams they're matching up against in the first round. I'd rather face the Rockets than Jokic. Even with the Nuggets being down, even with their defense not looking good, I would rather face them, the Rockets, than Jokic and Jamal Murray in a playoff series. I don't care how much better the Rockets are defensively than them. Offensively, Denver's that much better, and Jokic is going to play like 41 minutes a game at least in that series. He's an absolute horse, like his love for horses. David Hong said, I don't care who the opponent is as long as we have 100% Kawhi and the current healthy team. I like our chances in a 7-game series.
Yes, sir.
Stevie Daniels said, do you think the coaching staff will push correct buttons when it comes to Bogey and Norm? I do. I'm not worried about that.
Dwayne said didn't even have the full squad against Houston. That's right.
Yes, sir.
F said Clippers winning first championship as the first 6 seed would be poetic. Well, the Houston Rockets did it in 95. Of course, they were coming off being the defending champs. MG said, since I'm in a safe space, if we do get the L's first round, what's home court going to look like? Ooh, I don't know.
It can always be worse.
Well, at least they have Into a Dome in the wall. I know Lakers fans won't be allowed in the wall at least, so it could always be worse.
It can always be worse.
They're going to try to fill the place up, of course. They're going to try to take over, but they can't take over the wall. There's a policy there. Rockets won't have a best player on the court, but man, Jokic always dominates us. Like, you really want to go up against Jokic versus the Rockets, who are completely unproven in a 7-game series? I don't want to see Jokic. I don't care. Like, they're a championship team. Sometimes teams like this they won 2 years ago, but they still have Jokic and Murray. They have pedigree. It's a problem. I would rather see an inexperienced young team that does have athletes. They can rebound, they can defend, but they're not great offensively in the Houston Rockets. A healthy Kawhi will be the best player in the playoffs. Unless they're taking on Jokic.
Yes, sir.
It's hard to make the argument Kawhi can outplay Jokic in a 7-game series. Just about anybody else, maybe SGA, he could. Maybe Luka, maybe LeBron. I mean, there's other guys. Grizz may not even be in the play in the way they're free falling. It's possible. But they still have 3 games up on the Clippers right now. They're 3 games up on them. I don't know what's taking BJ so long. You coming? Our defense is in the same realm as the Rockets with our offense being better. Sign me up. I mean, that's the logic.
Yes, sir.
Papa P said the only team I fear in the first round is OKC. I like take a healthy Clip squad against anyone else. OKC, their defense is so good on the perimeter specifically and matching up with Kawhi and James Harden. That's what I fear most about them. Are you talking about a series against the Lakers, David? What kind of leeway are the NBA officiating going to allow? That's the other problem with playing the Lakers. I've seen this in 2002 with my Sacramento Kings against them. All right, join the show. It's about damn time. We got BJ on, the host of the Pull Up Podcast. I told him to pull up as we were texting last night after I did call him out, tongue in cheek. I also said I love him. BJ, welcome in the Clippers Talk. How are we doing?
Oh, let me first apologize, bro. So I was out, and when I texted you, I think you got back a little bit late, so I was already out. I had missed my charger, so I had to rush back home. So I was like, damn, I'm gonna be mad at me.
It's all good. Better late than never. And I got a chance to talk about the standings and stuff. Maybe we'll get into that.
Sure.
We can start with that because we'll get into James Harden. We'll get into last night's game. We'll get into the conversation we had on the Pull Up Podcast earlier this week when I jumped in, as I now truly understand the format you have going now, where anybody can, in fact, pull up once you drop that link in the chat, which is pretty great. So yeah. I just said, I'm not saying the Houston Rockets are pushovers. I think that's a tough series. My point is, I'd still rather see them than Jokic in the first round or than LeBron and Luka. Do you agree?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree because of the star power of the star power. Yeah,
People are still saying, well, the Clippers lost 3 games to them this season. They didn't have Kawhi in any of those games. I think that matters.
true statement. True statement. Yeah, I think off of the star power, you got to go with L.A. and Denver. Um, but the coaching aspect is what I'm more so concerned about. I think Udoka has enough experience, players, championship caliber players mixed in with youth and their personnel where it makes things a little bit tricky in that series.
Ime is a problem. He's a really good coach. He would concern me, but I'm just taking my chances against a young and inexperienced team over going up against Jokic, who's going to play like over 40 minutes a game. It's hard to win those minutes, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he's the one guy you could say, I don't know if Kawhi can outplay him in a 7-game series. It'd be close.
Yeah. If it's the Kawhi Leonard that we expect to have, I would take that over Jokic because of the two-way ability. I think there's ways to not play Jokic off the court, but there's ways to exploit his weaknesses. I don't think Kawhi has. I think when you're on two ways of the ball, it makes it harder for you to be a liability on the court. So that's why I would probably go with Kawhi. But if you're right, it's going to be close.
Yeah, I agree. Jokic, though, the way he controls an offense is just incredible because of his passing ability and getting guys open shots.
Mm-hmm.
People are saying you can't be fearful of who you're matched up against. Like, it doesn't matter if we're fearful or not. We're not on the floor. So I'm not – I don't think it affects the Clippers. They're the ones that actually have to do the work. I'm just saying there are certain teams I'd rather see. Doesn't mean I think they'd for sure beat the Houston Rockets in the first round. I think it could be really tough. But I don't need to see Luka again. I don't need to see Luka next to LeBron. And I don't need to see Jokic in the first round either. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, star power makes a big difference. That's a fact. That's definitely true. That's what the playoffs is about, your star players.
It's also, and somebody brought this up earlier, what's going to happen, even with them having their own arena, in a series against the Lakers in the playoffs? Are they really going to have home court advantage? Or are the Lakers going to try to pack into a dome?
I think it'll be split. I think the Clipper fan base has been showing out at the end to it. You've been seeing it. Like, I think against the Cavs, that was probably the craziest game all season.
Yep.
So I think it's gonna be a split. But LA is Laker town. That's a fact. So it'll be probably split.
It's just the way it is. They have the history. We'll see who has the present, who has the future. Would I still have some confidence against them in a first-round series? I would. Because I think, first of all, Rui Hachimura, it sounds like, may not get back to 100% by the time the season is over. And he's a big part of their small ball switchability, which they used against Denver when they got that big victory in Denver against Jokic, and they held him down. I just don't know if that scrambling, swarming defense they played is sustainable because it takes so much energy out of you. And Ivica Zubac is your biggest advantage against the Lakers. Like, if Ivica Zubac plays well, I feel decently about their chances, you know?
Yeah, I do too. And that's going to come down to scheming, right? If they're going to play through Zubac, I think each series is going to be different. If you're going to play through Zubac, you'll play through Harden, you're going to play through Kawhi. Or even Norm as well. So you got 4 options you're going to play to. It's just going to go down to scheming and who you choose to put the ball through.
So I just listened to some post-game audio from last night, and I was encouraged by something. And we can take this into the Harden conversation. Because I think there's things we definitely agree with each other about James Harden. I think there's things we disagree. And I think there's some stuff that may be a misunderstanding. But last night, he said, he was asked about Kawhi Leonard, how good he has looked, how he played last night. And James said, yeah, when he's looking like that, we're feeding off of him. And that basically sounds like, okay, they're going to play through him more. They're going to feed off of him. Now he says vice versa. We could also feed off each other. He feeds off me. I feed off of him. But he immediately said, when he's like that, we're feeding off of him. That does tell you something, I think, about the hierarchy, that he knows that Kawhi might still be the lead dog on this team when he's playing at that high of a level.
Yeah, I recall something he said last year in the playoffs where he was like, he's our best player. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it was after game 4, like that's our best player. So if he's here, then, we're going through him. If he's not here, we're going to have to go through, without him. But he is our best player. I'm more the type to look more at your actions. Well, it's good to say, but it's also the actions that follow up with it. So it's good that what he's saying is he's going to play through Kawhi. Now we need to see, like, when the playoffs hit and those series is hit, what style of play are we playing in? Are we playing in a lot of more Harden ball dominant style, which he has been playing off the ball? I got to give him this. He's been playing off the ball for the last few games, and he's looked a lot better. Or we're going to play through Kawhi with the sets. Like, that's how I think, we can determine who's going to be the number one option, who's going to be the this, that, and the other.
What was your biggest takeaway from their win last night over the Knicks, where I thought Norm had a really good stretch in the second quarter. James obviously had the big stretch to end the third quarter to open the game up. And then Kawhi had the great stretch to start the fourth quarter.
That we have mismatches that we can use, or the Clippers can use. I got to stop playing weak. I'm not going to play for the Clippers. But I got to say, they got mismatches they can exploit if they're exploited. There's different parts, different teams they can exploit based on how the team is going, how the game is going. You can exploit different matchups. In Kawhi's case, he should be a matchup pretty much every night, mismatch for him every night. James, there's going to be series that he's going to be vital in. With Zubac, a lot of times, more times than not, he's going to be able to dominate his matchup because there's not as many centers to really go up against, especially in the West. You got Jokic, you got Domantas Sabonis. There's really not too many dominant centers anymore in the league, so that's where you got to take advantage of that if you're Jokic or if you're Zubac. So that's what my biggest take was last night.
I felt like the scoring distribution last night and the rotations from Coach Lue were pretty close to replicating what I'd like to see in a playoff game. Harden has 29. Kawhi has 27. Powell has 19. Ivica Zubac has 18. Zubac got up 15 shots, even with them having Kawhi, Norm, and James Harden out there. People asked me this on the show before, but how many shots do you want to see from Ivica Zubac every night when they're fully healthy? I said 14. And that's not easy because there's a lot of mouths to feed. He got up 15 last night. Right. I think this looked pretty close to how Coach Lue is going to throw things out there in a playoff series and how lethal they can be with their big four.
So what you feel like as far as on a night-to-night basis is the hierarchy scoring the ball? Who should get the opportunities to score, in your opinion, from those four? Like, how should the hierarchy be?
Okay, some of this depends on matchups, except for the guy that I have at number one, Kawhi. Regardless of matchups, Kawhi is number one. We've always agreed upon that. You're going to get further with having Kawhi as your number one option. That's your highest ceiling, playing through Kawhi. As long as he's right and he's looked great the last couple of weeks. The last 7 games now, he's averaging a super efficient 26 points per game. He looks like last year's version of Kawhi, BJ, which is all I needed to see.
Yeah.
After that, it can be matchup dependent. Like if Ivica Zubac has a good matchup, I'm playing through him a lot. If Norman Powell is being guarded by like the third best defender or fourth best defender, I'm trying to find Norm. If James Harden is cooking and gets hot, like he did at the end of the third quarter, well, then I'm going through James. That's how I feel about it. How about you?
Yeah, I think it does fluctuate. with that being added on, the percentages and how they're shooting the ball. And if you look at this year, it's basically been what I've seen with Kawhi minusing him, Norm, Zoo, Harden, as far as on a scoring efficiency output, because James is responsible for the playmaking. That's, to me, that's his biggest job, to play making, take care of the rock. That's his biggest job, setting the table. So you can allow Norm and Zoo to have more of the opportunities to score, because number one, Norm don't do nothing other than score the basketball, so that you can't take that from him. And then Zubac, like you said, don't have a lot of difficult matchups. I've noticed with Harden, he's going to have more difficult matchups at that point guard position. You got to go through Steph Curry. You got to go through Luka Doncic. You got to go through who else in the West? Anthony Edwards. If you have to deal with him at the guard position, you're going to have to deal with,
He ain't going to be guarding those guys, though, anyway. Like, they're going to hide him. They're not going to put him on those guys. But there are a lot of defenders that the opposition is going to throw at James that are really good defenders, as opposed to guys that they can use to slow down and beat Zubas.
Like who?
Well, like, look at OKC. How many guys they got to throw at somebody like James Harden? Or Houston. Houston has a lot of different guys they can throw at him to slow him down.
Well, okay, yeah. That's what I mean. So you want to go through the more easier route, and I feel like Zubac will be able to score. He's averaging 16 points off of 61% field goal shooting. That's elite around the rim. And then Norm's averaging 22 at 50% free throw shooting.
We know, though, now with Kawhi back, Norm ain't averaging that anymore. Which is why last night, to me, him getting 19, I like that. He could still average 18 efficiently.
Yeah. I'm saying, like, Norm has earned to at least be no worse than the third option. I think he's been the more efficient player. His scoring output has been consistent, like, throughout the entirety of the year. I don't think he should take a back seat as far as more than third, in my personal opinion, because he can't do nothing else but score the ball.
Yeah. I mean, unless Harden is hot and feeling it, is showing burst, is blowing by his guy, I agree with you for the most part. Like, Norm, he's an offensive weapon, an efficiency maestro. And yeah, he ain't going to be playmaking. He's not a great defender. This is what he does. And especially if teams are going to put their top two perimeter guys on Kawhi and James, like we expect, Norm should have some favorable matchups out there to cook.
Agreed. That's why I like to see that for sure. But I agree on that.
All right. Here's what we disagree on. So last night, post game, I'm feeling myself a little bit. James Harden cooked. He had 29 points. And I come in here during the break, I think it was. And I'm like, PJ, where are you at? What are you going to say?
So somebody messaged me and they were like, Adam mentioned you on the Clippers. I said, what? He's like, yeah, he mentioned you. So I went back and watched the clip. And then I messaged, I'm like, Adam, if you're gonna call me out, bro, and you said the Knicks defense, can I at least put the schedule up of who they played all this month of March so I can actually match that? I'm not saying. Go ahead.
I said, BJ, something to the degree of, what are you going to say about this performance from James Harden against the second best defense in March, defensive rating wise? The Knicks have been there. You come back at me and text me and show me the Knicks schedule in March. And they did have some cream puff games in there against some bad teams like Washington. Who else did you show me in here?
Washington, Charlotte, Miami, Golden State without Steph.
So I'll give you, it's inflated it a little bit because the bad teams they have played in March, their defensive rating in March, the Knicks. Here's what interests me, though, about you making that point. See, I had something more broad where I said second best defensive rating in March. You went into the details to show the complete context of that defensive rating, and it's made up of them playing some easy teams. But when you want to go after James Harden and say that, look at the Clippers' offensive rating this season. Look at it. It's not that great. Overall, it's around 18.
Okay.
I say, but that's not the complete context because that's every single lineup they have used, whether or not James Harden is on the floor or not. Why not just look at the offensive rating when he's actually out there for this team, which is much better? So
Well,
it seems to me a little bit that when
inflated.
it suits you to go to the context and the details, like with the schedule for the Knicks, you use it. But when it doesn't for James Harden, you just use the more broad, oh, this is the Clippers' offensive rating. How good has he really been this year?
And that's why I want to get to. So I wanted to save this on your show because, I was going to say this on my show, but I was like, let me go and because we won't have this conversation again. So, again, you said per 100 possessions. The lineups that Harden is with is more times than not the starters. Kawhi, Norm, Zoo. You can throw in, probably Amir Coffey. More times than not, he's with the best players. So the lineups.
Coach Lou has also used him to try to carry some bad lineups, though, too. He played with KPJ some. It's the same way that JJ uses LeBron with some bad lineups. Like, just so they'll bleed some points, but they won't lose that bad if you have this player with some bad lineups.
But typically, so you're telling me the offensive rating you get on me about is because you're having me account for lineups he's not in. And so I asked you, what are the lineups he's not in? More times than not, if you're a starter, you're with more time the second and the third string. Of course, the lineup is going the average is going to drop. Of course, you're comparing them to second and third string players. That's not the measuring stick. I'm saying he has played the more minutes on the team. He has had the more games outside of Kawhi and Norm. So he gets more of the sample size. The lineups you're talking about he's not in more times than not are with bench players and role players. The offense, of course, is going to decrease. They're not better than James Harden. They're not better players than him. But that ain't what the measuring stick is for him. That's why I wanted to ask you last night, how do you measure James Harden? Like, where do you put him at? Like, because are you saying he's the first option? He's the all-star? Is he how do you value James Harden?
Well, first of all, I do want to point out they're 6 points better per 100 possessions with him on the court offensively. Their offensive rating is 114.5 with him out there. That would be the Dallas Mavericks team on the season has an offensive rating of 114.5, and that's 11th in the league. So when he's on the court, I'm just saying their offense is solid. And I get your point of that he's playing with starters. He also did a lot of his playing time without Kawhi Leonard this season. And he does help Ivica Zubac and Norman Powell unlock the best versions of themselves. Norm is not creating advantages out there. Norm is a finisher. James Harden is the one getting 2 feet in the paint, drawing two guys on him and finding the open man often. James Harden is the guy finding Ivica Zubac in those pick and rolls for a lot of easy buckets. So I think objectively, the Clippers offense is better than average with him on the floor, which is all you were asking for this season without Kawhi for over 40 games. I think he has helped keep them afloat. Is that the only reason? Hell no. Their defense. But those two things both had to be there this year. The defense had to be great, and the offense had to be above average, even without Kawhi, to get to a point where they were 4 games over 500 before Kawhi even came back. That's how they were able to do more than just tread water. And I think James deserves a lot of credit for that. So the reason I say I think he's the MVP of the team this season isn't because I think he's better than Kawhi. It's because I think the biggest reason for their record in overachieving is James Harden. Not by a huge margin, because I think you can make the argument that Ivica Zubac is right there with him, being close to being the MVP this season because of his defense and how good he's been on the offensive end. I'm giving James a slight edge over him as overall the most important player, most impactful player to the Clippers record this season because of availability and because the offense has been above average when he's out there on the court. And I don't know what they'd be without him offensively this season. When they got Kawhi back, that's different. But I'm talking about, and Kawhi didn't look like Kawhi until the last really 2-3 weeks here.
Mm-hmm.
But for the majority of the season, James has kept their offense afloat. I'm not giving him credit for the defensive side, even though he has been decent out there. I do think it says something that you can have a defensive rating that good, even though people say all the time, well, James Harden is so bad defensively. It's like, well, if he's so bad, why are they still an elite defense? Like
it's not as bad as people make him out to be. He's not a trash defender. He has ability to be a solid defender, especially offside.
Like he had that block last night. He played some decent defense. He has games where he plays pretty solid defense. He has games where he does play some horrible defense and doesn't get back and has a turnover and he doesn't run back on defense. And I hate that stuff. But my central point, BJ, and you can respond to this for why, and I think I needed to clarify this because I think this was the misunderstanding. The reason I say he's the MVP of the team this season is because I think he's been holding up his end of the deal on the offensive side without Kawhi Leonard, and I think they could be a complete dumpster fire if they didn't have him as that floor for their offense. And so the availability, only missing 3 games, I think that's meaningful. But I do think it's close, where you can make the argument that Ivica Zubac is right there with him being the MVP so far this year. The floor is yours.
So, okay, so you value him as an MVP. So that's how I'm going to grade him. See, I think, and I see people in the chat.
I'm not saying MVP of the league. I'm saying
No, I'm saying on the team, even on the team. I'm going to even the bar we're going to put on him. So I see people in the chat, they're upset already. But this is how and this just don't go to Harden. This goes to anybody. When I look at the games he's played this season, and he's been the most available player, and I think the biggest positive about James Harden is his ability to draw fouls. If I look at what the thing that is most useful of him on this team is his ability to draw fouls and for the defense to collapse on him. That is what I will give him 100%. So when you talk about the MVP of the team, we got to look at the categories. Is he leading us in scoring?
He and Norm are neck and neck. It's within a point.
But Norm has been averaging 24 points outside of the injury, right? So
But Norm can't create for himself. He's not creating for himself.
Neither can Zoo.
Well, there you go. James Harden can.
But James can't score like Norman Powell on an efficient rate. So is he leading us? Is he leading them in scoring?
Technically, he is not leading them in scoring.
Is he leading them in rebounding?
No.
Is he leading them in steals?
No.
Is he leading them in blocks?
Nope.
Is he leading them in assists?
Yes.
Is he leading them in turnovers?
Yes.
So the 2 categories you lead the team with are assists and turnovers. Now,
but apply context.
I'm gonna apply it. I'm gonna apply the context. You say it's because of the usage rate, right?
We know that's it.
Okay. Now this is why I got with who is responsible for that. Because my thing is, if he can't do it, that's fine. He's 35 years old. But Ty Lue's job is to take that from him. That's why I said with Brian Shaw, and you got me about this last night. I think people are misunderstanding what I'm trying to say. It was a clear difference how Harden was playing off the ball. That's why I mentioned it. You have a job to at least coach your players to avoid them from being exploited.
But bro,
if you're
up
okay,
until recently, Coach Lue didn't have an option to take the ball out of his hands. They didn't have better options to bring his usage rating down.
So who was available? Ben Simmons wasn't available. He missed games, right?
I'm saying the first 50 games of this season, they didn't have they were going to go.
KPJ was a good guy to come in and take some of that off of Harden.
He got plenty of opportunities too.
What do you average?
I'm not that worried about the counting stats as much as I am about the impact. Like,
my point is that to say they didn't have other options, there's ways to prevent that. You don't need a guy. And first off, you can go on a defensive lineup. You have other, and this is something that I think Lawrence Frank said. People are looking for a quote unquote point guard or whatever. You can use other players and do it all by committee and focus on a defensive end. There's other ways to skin a cat. But my point is, again, like I mentioned, you're saying he's been the MVP of the team, but you got Norman Powell, who's been efficient and scoring the ball and doing it in big games. This is something else I want to mention too. You go and look at all the top teams they played this season. Now I'm going by your words. He's been the MVP of this team. MVPs.
He has been the most important player this season for them having the record they do because of availability and because of controlling the offense.
What about competition when he play up against top teams?
I saw him drop 50 on Detroit, and their defense, like for 2 months, has been one of the best in the league.
Great game. Who else did he drop that? He said Washington and Utah, right? He dropped, I think, 40 on both those teams.
Yeah.
Those are rebuilding teams. What do you do against OKC? What do you do against OKC?
I'm not going to argue that he hasn't struggled against some of the best teams like many players do. He has.
But Kawhi and Norm, you don't see that. You don't see that with Zubac.
I've seen that with Norm. Oh, look at all 3 games against Houston.
Pull up the numbers against Houston that he played up against them.
All right. There was a narrative for a bit that Norm wasn't showing up against the toughest teams, against the toughest defenders.
He showed up against Denver. He showed up against Dallas.
But we know Denver's defense isn't actually good.
So I'm saying, this is what I'm telling you.
Okay, here's what
Go ahead.
You asked about Houston. In 3 games against Houston, Norm shot 27% from the field, 21% from 3, 13 points per game.
That was the worst series he had against the top team, right? The worst team he had against the top team. Now, what did Harden do?
That stood out the most.
Now, tell me the same. They all struggled in that matchup. That's why I said Houston was a team that I was a little bit worried about. But more times than not,
he was not good.
Yeah, he was bad. But I'm saying that's the same thing I can say with Harden. There's more teams that Norm has been competitive against than what Harden has, and that stuff matters. Well, that type of stuff matters.
It does matter. I'm not making the argument that James Harden has been great against the best teams this season. I would make the argument, though, there is plenty of value in still showing up and handling business against bad teams.
So that's the measuring stick, right? That's why I'm asking.
It's not the measuring stick. I'm just saying you can't completely discount it.
I'm not no, Adam. I'm not discounting anything. That's why I'm asking the question. When you talk about best players, bro, I don't judge them based off of the bad team. I need you to show up against the teams that you're going to have to go against in the playoffs. No one cares about what you did on a Saturday night against a Utah Jazz team scoring 40 points. Nobody cares about what you did in the Saturday afternoon against the Watch. No one cares. I'm sorry. That's just the reality. When you're being judged by these top players on these top teams, they got to go up against the cream of the crop players, and that shit isn't going to matter.
That matters when you're talking about trying to be a top 3 team in the league. We knew coming into this season without Kawhi, they were going to struggle. And James Harden's job was the measuring stick is keeping them afloat without Kawhi Leonard for the first 45 games of this season. That's the measuring stick. You're asking, I think, for too much.
I'm asking for. That's why I'm asking you, what is your expectations for the Clippers coming into this season, and what was your expectations of James Harden?
I'm giving it to you. The expectation was hold up your end on the offensive side and keep them an above average offense. They have been with him on the court. And they have a floor. They have a system offensively because of him. Norm is feeding off of James. Zoo is feeding off of James. It's all running through him.
It's back and forth, Adam. James is Norm scoring. You can't get an assist without the ball going to the basket. I can grab a point guard and just pass the ball to Norman. Norman Powell has had seasons where he scored 17, 20 points. The only difference is he's getting more of the opportunity to play. Why you think he said coming into this season, addition by subtraction? He was always this caliber player. Zubac has had 30, 29-point game performances before Harden got here. It's not because of James Harden.
I'm not saying they're not very good players in their own right. I am saying in the pecking order of who has impacted the record most this season because of availability. Again, Norm has missed 21 games. Harden has missed 3. Ivica Zubac has been available. But because of the position he plays, he is dependent on other guys getting him the basketball. I'm giving James the slight edge. I said it's close. Like, you're acting like I'm saying James has been so much better than these 2 other guys. I think it's close. I'm just going with James slightly ahead because the system is all flowing through him.
So because of his system, that's what you're giving him the edge, right?
His system is proven for winning in the regular season. You can say what you want about the playoffs, and I agree with a lot of that stuff. We don't disagree on that. We both agree it needs to be Kawhi's time. But just getting through the first 45 games of the season, figuring out a way to get through it with a winning record without Kawhi, to me, James contributed most to that. It's not that it's significant, though. I'm not saying that there's this huge gap between him and the next 2 guys. I'm not.
So why is it when I say the offensive rating off of his system is 22nd in the league that I get all this when he's look at when he's not on the floor. What lineups is he not on the floor with? Based off of what you just said, you're saying you're giving him and that's actually an understandable statement. I can see that. I can get that. If you want to give him the credit and saying that based off of his system, we've been rolling with his offensive system, then that's what's been carrying us. Okay. Carrying us where? And when I say the in the league, and I look over on the defensive side, which I thought was carrying the team was the defense, which is top 5 throughout the entire season, has been carrying the team. It's essentially the same. It's got to be one or the other. Either you're going to give James Harden the team and say that 22nd ranked offense has been his system, or you're going to say that the other players have been, if not more impactful in what they've been doing. And then just because James Harden has the bigger name, we want to roll with, okay, this is Harden's team. It's got to be one or the other.
No. 2 things can be true here. They needed the defense to be elite because the offense wasn't going to be great because James can't play 48 minutes per game, especially at the age of 35. But in his 36 minutes or whatever he's at per game, when he's out there, the offense has been solid and maybe slightly better than that. Those are the two things they needed coming into this season, and they got them. I'm not saying the defense isn't greatly responsible for their record. I'm saying one without the other wasn't going to work. If they just had the offense, but the defense was not good or average, they'd be bad. If they just had the defense, but the offense was 29th or 30th, they'd also be in trouble. And I can't hold him responsible for offensive ratings with lineups when he's not even out there on the court.
But when does that happen though? How many times did that happen? How often is that?
If he's playing, BJ, if he's playing 36 minutes per game, that's 12 minutes he's not playing times how many games we played this season. Like, at least until Kawhi came in, about 45 games. That's a ton of minutes where he is not out there on the floor. We can't hold him responsible for how the offense looks when he's not actually out there, in my opinion.
So we got to do that through everybody in the whole entire league then.
We got to go through every. This is how I judge things. I always do. Like, that's why you look at Jokic's on-off splits and how much better they are with him on the floor versus off the floor. They're a completely different team. That's always how I grade players.
The reason why I can only hold that with a grain of salt, Adam, is because Kawhi has been missing. Same thing you want to say on the offense. The defense has been top 5 with Kawhi Leonard not even be on the court. So who gets that credit?
I think a lot of that goes to Lawrence Frank in my mind.
You don't think that goes to Jeff Van Gundy? They had Lawrence Frank last year with better defensive players, quote unquote, and you were at the half. You were halfway from 15 all the way down. You bring in Jeff Van Gundy, who all his teams have been top 5 with the Knicks. You bring him over from Boston, who's won a championship.
You're acting like I'm discounting Jeff Van Gundy. I just said I think a lot of that.
He has to be him.
I think a lot of that should go to Lawrence Frank. Not all of it.
But why though?
Because it's a players' league, and he brought in DJ and Chris Dunn. He gave Jeff Van Gundy players to use. Like, they have guys that want to guard this year.
But top 5 throughout the whole year without your best player, bro, that's coaching. That's simply coaching. It's not simply coaching. If you don't have Chris Dunn and DJ, they're not top 5. Who is DJ and Chris Dunn on defense, bro? Nobody knew who Chris Dunn and DJ were on defense until prior to this year. They haven't made no.
If you didn't know who Chris Dunn was on defense prior to this year, that's on you.
No. I'm saying those are good defensive rotational players, but they haven't made no all defensive teams, bro. That is simply Jeff Van Gundy's coaching scheming to get those guys in order. That's what that is.
To make all defensive teams, it requires a certain amount of games played and a certain amount of minutes per game. We know Chris Dunn, when he's actually out there on the floor, is one of the better defenders in this league on the perimeter. He is. He is a defensive specialist. He doesn't offer much else. His shooting has gotten worse from 3. He is that good of a lockdown defender. All the numbers and the eye test say it. Those two things go together. Jeff Van Gundy, of course he deserves credit. But I don't know why you're taking it away from the two players. Like, I saw DJ in the playoffs last year for Dallas. I know how good he was. I think Lawrence Frank deserves a ton of credit because as soon as Paul George, when they released that statement saying they were done with the negotiations, they went out first day of free agency and said, okay, we're going to build a defensive identity. And they brought in DJ immediately. I think that was a big pivot.
I'm not saying, Adam, I'm not saying DJ and Chris Dunn are not good defenders, but the cream of the crop, they are not the cream of the crop defenders. Jeff Van Gundy went out and completely changed it. He's had a track record of being a top 5 defense with the Knicks. His mentality is defense. How he's been able to uplift that team defensively has been primarily him.
You don't think Jeff Van Gundy would agree that you have to have the players and guys who actually want to guard? I bet you he would. These things go together. They go hand in hand. You got to have good defenders. You got to have good coaching for those defenders.
So was Chris Dunn a better defensive player than Patrick Beverley?
This season, Chris Dunn is putting together one of the best perimeter defensive seasons I've ever seen. And Pat Bev is one of my favorite players ever.
Is he a better defender?
I think specifically his perimeter defense has been better. It's not by much. It's very close. And I would still take Pat Bev because he's a better offensive player. But Chris Dunn, you look at the estimated plus minus defensively, look at some of the plays he makes. They're all world defensive plays. Chris Dunn's mixtape this season is out of this world defensively.
Adam, Pat Bev's an All-NBA first team defensive player, bro.
Bro, forget votes. Watch tape.
He's not. Chris Dunn don't have a large enough sample size to say, and this is another thing too. I want to tell you.
This
There's something else I want to tell you too. Let me tell you something. Like we jump on and giving credit off of a few games. Bogdanovich, you said in the last live it might be time to possibly bench Norm, and I told you, why in the world would you bench the leading scorer on the team?
I never said bench Norm. What are you talking about?
You want me to go to the tape? You said it might be time if he continues to struggle.
No. I said in fourth quarters, if you will go away from Norm, if he's having a bad game, I can see the argument of not playing him.
I promise you, I wish I could pull it up.
Bro, I
was going to chat with you the other day when you had it was in the I forgot his name, Lucas, and we were talking about with Norman Powell, and I said Bogey's had 2 good games. And
Bogey has not had 2 good games. He's shooting 40% from 3 as a Clipper now.
He had a 30-point game, which he went 8 for 8 from the field one of them games. And he had 30 points against the Miami Heat.
You're talking about outstanding games. You're talking about
what is considered a good game.
Bro, what do you just look at points to decide if a guy played well that night?
No, I look at efficiency. I look at efficiency and how you can score the ball. I look at a number of things. Bogey he's getting minutes over Amir Coffey now.
You know why?
I don't know how that can be.
You know why? Because he can run pick and roll. He can run the offense. Amir can't do that.
That's not his job to do that.
It is his job. Last night, he starts the fourth quarter. They needed a ball handler out there aside from just having Kawhi. It works.
You're saying Amir Coffey's job is to run the pick and roll. He's scoring 10 points a game and 47% from the field.
Pick and roll. He can't run pick and roll. That's not what he's good at. Bogey offers more. He offers more. If he's not scoring, he can still do other things for you, like pass. If Amir's not scoring, he's not creating for other guys.
Bro, he's asked. Everybody has a role on the team to do. Amir Coffey is giving you 10 points a game off of 47% shooting. He runs the floor. He's a solid defender, not a great defender. He's a solid defender.
He's had a few good months defensively. He's not. And I thought he was always solid. I thought he was just about as good as Terrence Mann was defensively. The last 2 months, it has not been good. He's getting hunted. He's getting hunted all the time. You're going off rep. I'm going off tape. Amir has been getting picked on.
I'm going off tape and rep. I see both, man.
Well,
Bogey has just simply came on to the team, and you automatically sitting up the guy who's been efficient all season and been scoring at a high rep and has been in the playoffs for the team over the last couple of seasons.
And was really bad in the playoffs last year against Dallas. Objectively awful.
It was the whole team was bad.
No, bro, he was bad. He was so bad they started PJ Tucker in Game 6.
Whose idea was that? How good was PJ Tucker?
I think he outscored.
Bro, he was
Paul
horrible.
George
Stop, Adam. He was horrible. PJ Tucker was unplayable.
And
he was horrible.
Amir Coffey was so bad they couldn't play him anymore in that series.
They played PJ Tucker in Game 6, and he didn't look nowhere better.
PJ Tucker move. I'm just saying Amir Coffey was objectively bad in that series.
And it was the entire team was terrible. He's had a good season this year. He's had a good season. We're going to last year now. He's had a good season with the team.
I think he's had a solid season, a good season, a really good season in certain areas with his three-point shooting. But there's much more to the game than that. His defense has not been good the last couple of months, and he doesn't offer anything else if he's not scoring.
He offers transitional play. He gets up and down the floor.
Scoring.
And as far as two-way player, who's a better two-way player than him outside of Kawhi?
I mean,
name the player.
I don't consider Amir a two-way player right now. Well, first of all, Ivica Zubac. There you go. There's your better two-way player.
So he can score on 3 levels. Can he score on 3 levels?
Bro, Amir Coffey is score.
Mid-range, 3-point, attack the basket. Can Amir Coffey score on 3 levels?
For how many points? Is he getting?
10 points per game off of 47% shooting, 41 for the 3, and 90% from the line. Is he a 3-tier scorer?
You think Amir Coffey is a better two-way player than Ivica Zubac?
He can score on 3 levels, and he can play defense on multiple positions.
Is a better two-way player than Ivica Zubac?
Yes.
Bro, that's
you can't go. A guy who's a traditional center is not known as no two-way player.
Bro, like, because a guy has a bigger bag doesn't mean he is a better offensive player. Because he can score on 3 levels does not mean he's a better offensive player than Ivica Zubac. It's not
He's
even close.
He's the best two-way player outside of Kawhi Leonard.
Bro.
Now all of a sudden he can't. Now all of a sudden
Zubac is infinitely better on both ends. Infinitely.
Adam, if we're gonna sit here and say that Ivica Zubac, who is a traditional center, is a better. Nobody's even mentioned Zubac being a two-way player. You can't do that as a center, a traditional center at that.
What does two-way mean to you? To me, it means offense and defense.
Offense and defense, the versatility of who you can guard on multiple players. Like last night, take for example on Karl Anthony Towns, right? How much did Karl Anthony Towns have last night?
He had, I think, 35. He had a good game.
So who was the primary matchup for Karl Anthony Towns?
A lot of it was Zoo.
Who can you say, Zubac, go and guard that player tonight? I want you to play defense on him. Who can you tell? Bro,
are you kidding me? You don't think Ivica Zubac is one of the best defenders at his position?
He's a great rim protector. Defense is when you can guard another player and say, I want you to play defense on him. If Karl Anthony Towns gets 35 points and majority on Ivica Zubac, I'm going to say he's not a two-way. He's not even the best two-way player outside of Kawhi. It's been Amir Coffey. Amir Coffey is getting more of the defensive assignments to the tougher players. That's what they're doing.
Amir Coffey is getting cooked the last couple of months, bro, on defense. He fouls some of the worst fouls on the team. I love Amir.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
I think it's a bad stretch for him. I think he's better than this typically, but it has been bad the last couple of months.
I agree. He's had a tough stretch defensively. You got to look at who he's guarding.
I don't think his offense is making up for his defense. I love Amir, but I don't think he offers enough on the offensive end.
You don't think he's getting, 47% from the field and 41% from the 3 and 90% of the line, and with the limited minutes he gets on the court?
Right. So
off
we're
of 10
talking
points.
low volume.
No, he can score. I've seen him get 26 points. I've seen him get 20. Go through his game log this year
Had
and
a
watch the
few
games.
That's
No,
not the
he's
norm.
had, bro, the multiple amount of games he's been scoring the basketball at an efficient rate. He scores on 3 levels and he scores at the mid range. He can score the basketball. It's not no small sample size.
The reason he has gotten minutes this season is, yes, he can score the basketball, and they have needed scoring.
Right.
Now Kawhi's back. Norm's healthy. They have their big 4. They don't need what he offers. They don't need as much anymore, and that's why he was out of the rotation last night. I think he still probably plays Friday. I think it's going to be matchup dependent, but I do think when you cut down to a 9-man rotation, because Bogey can run an offense, that's the differentiator. That's what makes him more valuable to the team. He can run pick and roll the Visa Zubats beautifully. Amir can't do that.
Okay. So we're going in the playoffs. Remember, it's a different game in the playoffs from the regular season. So Bogey can run the offense against that when we play Houston or when we play OKC or when we play Denver or when we play one of these top teams. We're going to see if he can run the offense.
Look,
because it's a different animal in the postseason, and that's what a lot of people will say. Okay, what's going on with Bogdanovic? Why is he not doing what he did in the regular season? Because it's a different type of game. Same thing what you said with Amir Coffey. He was struggling so much in the playoffs, and the season is different. The role players, when they're in the season, they may look a certain way, but when the playoffs come and they get actually the rotations get shorter. And they gotta go up against teams that are scheming for you every single night. You got a chance to go on a 7-game series, and you don't look as prevalent as you did going into the regular season. Then things change. Then this guy ain't that good. Then this guy can't. No, because teams scout you and find out what your weaknesses and take that away.
All right. Well, I don't disagree with that, but I think Bogey's going to get the first chance over Amir in a playoff series because he offers more.
Okay, but
sense.
So the Ty Lue discussion, I think you got upset with me because of when I said Ty Lue don't deserve blame or don't deserve. You think I blame him too much? I put too much on Ty Lue, and I want you to explain to me what is the problem I have with Ty Lue?
You want me to say?
Why do you feel like I'm too hard on Ty Lue?
I think it's a little bit unfair to take so much out of 5 games coached by B. Shaw and be like, see, he's completely different than Coach Lue. It's 5 games. We've actually seen B. Shaw as a head coach before with a much bigger sample size. And I think he did a good job in those 5 games.
Mm-hmm.
I also think there were a lot of things that went his way, like hot shooting. Last night, Coach Lue got hot shooting, and that covers up for a lot of things. And we go, well, look, the coaching's better, but sometimes it's just a make or miss league. I don't necessarily disagree that B. Shaw can have and does have different philosophies than Coach Lue. But I do think when he's filling in for Coach Lue, he's trying to push what Coach Lue has been preaching all season long. I don't think they're running different schemes. I don't think they changed their offense over without having an offseason to do that. I think they're pretty much doing a lot of the same stuff. That's my point with it.
So what do they do similar?
I think it's still James Harden running a lot of the offense. I think it's still getting Kawhi involved. Like, I think last night's game looked very similar to what we saw with B. Shaw. I don't think there's a big enough sample size to say that these two coaches are drastically different when they coach the Clippers.
So You think that they run the offense through Harden more than Kawhi when B. Shaw was coaching?
I don't know what the numbers say, but I think it looked pretty similar.
Okay. Did you notice the difference in shot attempts that Zubac was getting with Brian Shaw?
I went back over Ivica Zubac's game log, and I don't. His shots have been up before B. Shaw came in. The shots were already going up.
So the sets that I seen B. Shaw was running through was more through Kawhi and Zubac. And Harden was playing more off the ball. I saw more ball movement. I seen more actions in sets. I saw him the ability to sit certain guys. Sat Norman Powell out, who was struggling. He took Chris Dunn out for Bogdan Bogdanovic against the Grizzlies. I see absolutely nothing similar to those two. Like, honestly.
You
They are
really think
completely
B.
matched.
Shaw would come in and just run completely different stuff than they've been doing all season long, and that would work?
What I'm saying is the philosophies are different and who they value is different. I think Ty Lue, and he said it. This goes back to when they had Reggie Jackson. He likes undersized, offensive-minded guards. That's who he plays. And he was an offensive guard and coming in. Well, he was a guard undersized in the league. That's who he values. B. Shaw seems to value guys who are wings and big men. We've heard even in the press conference, me and Ty Lue are two different people. That's what he said. That's what Brian Shaw said. We're two different people. He said that Brian Shaw also said that we're going to go through Kawhi.
But I think he also said he's trying to keep it the same at a press conference also.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see it drastically different. I think people see what they want to see because they went 4-1, and a lot of people don't like Coach Lue. So they're like, see, B. Shaw is different. He's doing what I think they should do more of. And the game before he took over, or one of the games right before, was that Phoenix game where they blew that 23-point lead. Because I asked Tomer Azarli, because I do think it's worth exploring if they're different and how things have looked between them. And I don't think you're wrong there. I think it's worth looking at. And I asked Tomer Azarli about that game specifically because Zoo had, I think, 35. And it looked like he could have had 45 against Phoenix. And they blew that 23-point lead. And they didn't go to him as much. And I had a soundbite from B. Shaw coming into the next game against Detroit the next day. And he did say, our biggest advantage heading into every game is Ivica Zubac. And so I do agree with you to an extent that he played with Shaq. He sees a big man as being a huge advantage for them. And there probably is more of an emphasis with him there. But then I asked Tomer Azarli about that, comparing him and Coach Lue. And apparently Coach Lue was also very upset post-game that they didn't get it to Big Zoo more. So it's like, I look at the numbers. Big Zoo was already getting more shot attempts. I don't think there's a crazy difference, but there might be a slight difference in how B. Shaw sees it. I could see that.
Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, and when do they, and somebody said that you got to look at the teams they beat too. They beat some top teams. They beat Cleveland. They beat Memphis. All the teams
were down, but yeah, it's a good win.
And you got to think Jeff Van Gundy wasn't there. So he's doing this without
Jeff Van Gundy then too.
I think Jeff Van Gundy, like I said, I think he's responsible for the defense being where it's at. I believe
I think he's a big part of that too. But if you don't have the players, you don't have, like, it's a players league. You got to have both.
So you think the defenders this year were better than the defenders last year?
Yes.
Individually.
You have two guys that just care about guarding and don't care about getting theirs at all in DJ and Chris Dunn. Paul George is not committed as those guys were, or as those guys are last season of playing defense every possession.
So, how much did Karl Anthony Towns have last night, Adam?
He had 35 and a 13-point loss.
Okay.
We
Who
gonna
was
go
guarding
off
Karl
one
Anthony?
game?
No, I'm going off of multiple because you said something. You said Karl Anthony Towns. This is how I measure defenders, individually defenders. Can I put you on a guy, and could you guard him and stop him, or at least slow him down? You said Paul George doesn't give this about defense. Last year, when they faced the Minnesota Timberwolves, they won one game in Minnesota. Paul George was the one guarding Karl Anthony Towns.
Great.
And made him.
It's his friend.
So how you want me to keep going? Do you want me to keep going? I can keep going. Kyrie Irving in game 4 in the playoffs. Game 4 in the playoffs. He was guarding Kyrie Irving down the stretch of that game. We got that block. Paul George guarding Devin Booker last year. You can say Russell Westbrook on Kevin Durant multiple times. So I can go down the list.
Selective games and possessions and quarters of defense from Paul George do not match the level of possession to possession defense we see from DJ and Chris Dunn this season.
When the playoffs come, Adam, I'm gonna hold you to that because it's a different game in the playoffs, and they're gonna be guarding. They're gonna ask since you boss up what you said. We're gonna see how they guard the top players in the playoffs, and that's going to determine how great their defense is. If you can't guard the best players in the playoffs, you don't have better defensive players. Chris Dunn and DJJ, we have not seen that.
I saw it last year with DJJ. I watched those games with Dallas. I mean, he is a really good defender in this league. The numbers will tell you it. The eye test will tell you it. I think it's pretty clear that, yes, Jeff Van Gundy is a big part of it. But you have to give him guys that are committed to playing defense. And
yeah, but they're not the cream of the crop. They're not I get that, but they're not the cream of the crop. That's all I'm saying. They're not.
I think they are. I think they're two of the better defenders in the league.
Okay. Playoffs. That's why I was asking you, what's the measuring stick? What is the measuring
everything
stick?
they've done this season doesn't matter.
It matters, but I'm saying I'm not going to lower the bar. If you want me to say, okay, because my expectation, I'm gonna give you what my expectation for the Clippers were. If Kawhi is healthy, they have a chance to get to the finals. And that was my measuring stick. I'm not going to backtrack off of that and just say, well, yeah, they look good against this team, but they didn't have Kawhi in this game, so I'm going to take and make. I'm going to stick on one point. If they got Kawhi Leonard healthy, they have a chance. I'm not backtracking off of that. I'm not saying, well, this didn't happen, this didn't go our way. If Kawhi is healthy, then that's where I'm going to keep the standard at. But all this that, Harden's 35 years old and, we didn't have this, we didn't have that. We got to, what's the standard? What's the standard? What is it?
I've told you my standard. Keeping them above water without Kawhi for 45 games. And he did that.
Okay.
That doesn't mean I said the same thing before the season. If they get Kawhi back and he looks like last year's version, they can do damage. When I saw how good the defense was, I really felt good about it because I felt like when Kawhi came back, their offense is going to get much better. They're going to be a lead on both ends. And we're seeing that now the last couple of weeks where they won 9 of their last 11. What I didn't know is how long it would take to come back and get back to this level where Kawhi is going to play less than 40 games this year. So it does put them in a tough spot possibly with the path they have to take in the playoffs, and matchups matter, but we'll see. They're 6 right now.
Do you believe the Clippers can get to the finals with Kawhi Leonard healthy?
Yes, but I
Okay.
do have some doubts about him staying healthy throughout a playoff run. I'm not
Okay.
going Stephen A. Smith with it. I'm not acting like, haha, this is funny, because Kawhi wants to be healthy and his body has betrayed him. But I do think it's fair to have some doubts after what we've seen the last 4 seasons that Kawhi's body can hold up. Like, can he play? Because here's the problem, BJ. He just really started to hit that 6th gear as of late. He's
Yeah.
really testing his body now. How long can he stay in that gear and have his knee not swell up? That's what we don't know. That's what worries me.
I mean, I think it does everybody. But I'm speaking pertaining to basically how they look with him on the floor. Like, he's here now, he's playing. And Kenny GM said, BJ said Russ is a better defender than Chris Dunn. Yes, I did say that. I did. I said that, and I guess people think, well, Chris Dunn is just focused strictly on defense. Let me explain my point on that.
All right.
I've seen Russ guard top level defenders or top level offensive players while still being responsible on the offensive side of the basketball. See, if I just tell you just to go out there and play defense, and that's all the energy you have to expunge on, first of all, we can't even compare the two players because Russ is asked to do more things on the court than Chris Dunn.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean he's better defensively. That just means he has more in the tank. Russ is an all-time cardio guy. I've never seen anyone have as much energy.
So if I ask Russ to just basically be a defensive guy and Chris Dunn to be a defensive guy, Russ don't worry about scoring, Russ don't worry about being on the offense, and I tell Chris Dunn the same thing, who would you say who's a better defender?
Well, I haven't seen that from Russ really ever, where he's just asked to be a defender. But I don't think he's very good off ball. Like, he gets caught. He's good on ball, taking up the challenge when he wants to, but he gets lost sometimes.
He does.
I don't see that with Chris Dunn.
He does get lost off ball. I will agree with that. I still think Russ is a better defender.
Nah, man.
I still think Russ is a better defender.
No. Chris Dunn, what his mixtape this season is like nothing I've ever seen.
Really?
He has more defensive, crazy highlights of jumping passing lanes and baiting them into steals. Like, he has otherworldly, sixth sense like defensive plays. I don't trust Russ doing that consistently without over gambling. And look, Russ one-on-one, when he wants to play defense, is really good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think overall, with every aspect of defense, he's better than Chris Dunn.
Because we judge Chris Dunn more on the ball than off the ball.
But he jumps passing lanes and gets steals on guys. Like, he got one on Steph earlier this season where I don't know how he baited him into making this pass. Like, he's gotten steals where it is very unique to him and him alone. And look, Patrick Beverley is one of my favorite players ever. He would gamble more and lose those gambles than Chris Dunn has this season. And I think Pat Bev's a great defender, and he's one of my favorite players ever. But I'd give Chris Dunn the edge. I'd still take Pat Bev over him, though, because offensively he's better.
Yeah, I think, again, that's proven in the playoffs. I've seen Patrick Beverley in the playoffs many times guard the top players. And Chris Dunn's going to have to be asked to do the same thing. If you're telling me that he's better than guys who've been all defensive team players, who's shown it in the postseason, over off one season, bro, that I don't measure it like that. I don't measure it off of a guy who's getting success in parts of the regular season over a guy who's been proven multiple times in the playoffs.
Well, I'm talking about what I've seen this regular season from Chris Dunn versus what I saw from Patrick Beverley in regular seasons, I'll give Chris Dunn the edge. If he turns into a disaster in the playoffs, I don't expect that defensively, then yeah, I'll give it to Pat Bev. I don't think that's likely.
Okay.
I think he's going to be good. Now, it could depend on how they call it.
What do you mean?
If the referees call it really tight, that could affect things.
Yeah, he does foul a lot. I mean, he gets caught in fouls, but that's expected when you have an aggressive defender. I mean, that's going to happen. You'll get in foul trouble. My measuring stick on measuring great defenders is your versatility. Can you guard up? And like the parts of the starting line, can you guard? Can you guard positions 1 through 3? Can you guard positions 1 through 4? Can you guard, like, where can you guard? And your ability to stop top guys. Can the coach put you on the top guy and ask you to guard him?
It's pretty rare nowadays that you get a total lockdown game from anyone against top guys, the top guys, because it's so hard to guard these guys nowadays. But it does happen for stretches or maybe for a game. Like, I don't know, SGA just went 7 of 29 against the Clippers. Now, the majority of that was DJ. If you look at the matchup data, SGA went 1 for 13 the other night when guarded by Derrick Jones Jr. That's a hell of a defensive performance.
Yeah. I think also you got to mention, though, that the defense crowd, they basically – see, that's another thing, too. When you're playing – when you have a scheme set for a guy like a ball handler like SGA, it's not – you can say primary defender because he's the closest guy to him. But when you see that second line of defense, when you see the guy coming, like, you're thinking about that as well. Like, they're so corralled and so close to him that he's just not being guarded by DJJ. Here comes the help side defense. He pulls up, he misses the shot. Oh, it's DJJ being the primary defender. Well, in reality is that you have a matchup type of defense where guys are already on, their heads are on the swivel, getting ready to corral SGA. It's just that DJ. So it's not like DJJ is on an island just guarding SGA, because that's not what's going on. If you tell me, let's go 4 flat down, and you got SGA call that, and it's DJJ and him, bro, that's SGA is not, you're gonna get DJJ in foul trouble. You're gonna, so like I take that with a grain of salt, because that was more of a team scheming thing.
See, while I agree with you, I wouldn't take it with a grain of salt. Like, because he's the primary defender. He's on his hip. He did a good job not fouling. And he also pushed him into some of that help defense at times. DJ directed him towards that help defense. Like, you can only ask so much. SGA is going to be the MVP. He's that great. I'm not saying, like, SGA still missed shots in that game too he normally makes. So I'm giving it that. But I'm still saying DJ did as good of a job as you can do when you talk about trying to shut down SGA. That's what I'd say. It's not just him on an island. I agree. But there were some possessions it was where he didn't get help.
All right.
He did about as good as you can do.
No, he did. He did. I'm just saying again, when we say things like I don't think the defensive individual players from last year or this year was better than last year, but yet and still the team defense aspect, I think Jeff Van Gundy is the primary reason for that, not the players. Because when you say they need the players to get them, yes, you do need serviceable players. But I don't think DJJ and Chris Dunn are the guys that are just cream of the crop, and they're just like Lou Dort. Is he a better defender than Lou Dort? Is he a better defender than Bam Adebayo? Is he a better defender than all these other, like, those are players that I look at are like okay, you got them, you brought them in, and then that's what made your defense what it was. I'm looking more like this was the coaching that I think propelled the team defensively.
I think you might be protecting Russ and PG a little bit there.
No, I think they're better defenders. They're better defenders.
They're not better defenders.
I don't see how you can't say they're not. I think they're better defenders.
Paul George has not consistently put out the defensive effort that Chris Dunn or DJ did this year. He has a reputation of being a great defender. Possession to possession, he is not putting out that consistent effort. Now, he has offensive responsibility.
That's the difference, right? You just said it.
But that doesn't make him a better defender.
If you
like,
bro, you just said it out your mouth. If you have the responsibility offensively, you're not going to put out the same effort. I'm talking about the ability to guard players. That's what I'm speaking on.
You're talking about two different things then. Because if you're making the excuse that, well, Paul George has to do this on offense, that still doesn't mean he's a better defender or putting out as much energy on defense as DJ or Chris Dunn is.
So when you say that DJJ and Chris Dunn are better defenders, we can't even compare the two. But that's been the conversation. You said DJJ and Chris Dunn are.
We can just compare their defense and forget about the other side. Who are the better defenders?
Then for sure I'm taking those two defensively. If you're just comparing their defense and just say forget the offense and just focus on the defensive end, I'm surely taking that because again we just seen it on display last night with Karl-Anthony Towns. No one was able to guard Karl-Anthony Towns last night.
It's one game. He had a good game and they lost by 13. Who cares?
But I seen Paul George guard Karl-Anthony Towns last year. Bro, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I'm saying he has guarded top level players. And if you ask him to primarily be a defensive guy, I see him being a better versatile defender than DJJ.
But he's never just going to be primarily a defensive guy.
That's why I don't compare the two.
It's a hypothetical.
That's why I don't compare the two. Same thing what you said.
You have been comparing them. You said you think they're better.
In response to what you said Chris Dunn's a better defender than Russell Westbrook. Same thing you said to me this year. Norman Powell's been having a better season than Paul George. You can't compare them. They're asked to do two different things. You came and told me Norman Powell's having a better season than PG this year. Yeah, he's having a better season. Is he a better player? Can you compare those two? There is no point point of bringing that in. What does that mean? He's having a better season.
Clear Norman Powell's had a better season than Paul George.
He's been hurt. Of course, he's been having a better season.
I think when he was healthy, he still had a better season than Paul George.
When was he healthy?
Paul George?
He's been hurt. He was been hurt 3 separate times. When has he been healthy this season?
In the games that he played?
Right. And how many games did he play this year? He didn't even play half the season.
So I'll take all the games that Paul George played and put him up against the same amount of games from Norman Powell. Norman Powell had a better season.
But how much does that mean, Adam, when you're talking about a guy who's been playing hurt and he's not even been on the court? Like, what was the point of even bringing that up?
Paul George left. Norman Powell at Media Day said addition by subtraction. There was going to be a comparison between them two this season. How the Clippers looked without Paul George, with the guys who were replacing a lot of his production. I think it's a fair comparison.
You can't compare a guy who's been in and out the lineup. You can't compare a guy who's been hurt 3 separate times. You can't compare a guy who's not even played half the season, bro. You can't do it. You can't compare a guy. You just said it with James Harden and Norman Powell. You just said your own argument. You can't give Norman Powell his credit because somebody has to set him up for offense. But when I bring up that Paul George had to do so many more things than Norman Powell, you want to compare. You can't compare the two. They asked two different things. But I think that's, again, a little bit of you trying to get on PG because how he left the team.
Man, I don't think it's a stretch to say that Norm Powell, like, you can't admit that Norm Powell has had a better season than Paul George.
He's had a better season, bro. But what was the point of even bringing it up if you know he's not a better player? What was the point of even bringing that up?
He's not a better player than Paul George is in his career. All I care about is who's the better player today.
I think, once again, there was no comparison. I don't know. I think it was more so Clipper fans comparing the two because the whole addition by subtraction. No one's even Norm said it. Like, people made such a big deal about that and tried to put words in his mouth. And that's why I hate narratives when it comes to players. He wasn't even going at Paul George. He said it was an opportunity for everybody on the team to score the ball. And that's what Norm did this year with a bigger sample size. People ran with that quote. It made it seem like he was taking a shot at PG because people are mad at him because how he left. And that's where that whole thing got exploited. But Norm even said on Draymond Green's podcast, there was nothing there.
I agree. But we can still compare them if we want to. It's sports. This is what happens all the time. It's better than Stephen A. beefing with LeBron James. Like, we're at least talking about the game and who's had a better season.
Oh, he's had a better season for sure. I just think it's some salt there. I think it's some salt there.
There's definitely some salt. I wanted to root for Paul George. I still stood up and clapped for him during his tribute video when he came back. Like, even with everything he said, I just think it's interesting how the Clippers have survived without him. I think that's part of the storyline of this season. That's
fair enough. And Clipper fans are licking their chops because of what had happened. I got nothing bad to say about dude. I mean, I'm supporting the team, always supporting the team. But when people ask me about, the whole Paul George situation, man, I say, look, bro, he gave us the best moment, I think, in the Clipper history, getting us to the conference finals when Kawhi went down. And I think because what he said,
you got to win that first round series.
Oh, for sure. You got to win the first round series. I'm just saying, like, that was his playoff run. And Kawhi, is my favorite player, but I think people say what you just said to take credit away from him.
I think they both deserve credit. I think that Game 5 in Utah is one of the best games in Clippers history. Brought to you by Paul George. I do think just saying Paul George got us to the Western Conference Finals is also false.
What would have happened if he would have lost with Kawhi not being there? What would the narrative be?
He would have taken some incoming. He also might have got the excuse that Kawhi wasn't there.
Would it be fair to say that we lost because of Paul George? That would have been you could say Kawhi, but the narrative would have been Paul George lost that series.
I don't know about that because they were down 0-2 to start that series, even with Kawhi.
Yeah, I mean, but you got to put on somebody. Like, you got to put that on. Like, the bubble year, that they put on PG for that, and deservedly so. That's why I say we can blame him for that, but we got to put the credit, like, that was his playoff run.
See, I don't like his playoff run. To me, is a little bit too far. I think there's equal credit to go around. They don't get to the second round if Kawhi doesn't drop 45 in a must-win game on the road in Dallas.
Yeah, that's true.
So how do you get to the Western Conference Finals if you don't get that performance from Kawhi to begin with?
You get that. That's why I give you credit. But as far as the totality of the entire playoffs, Paul George led every player in the playoffs up into the finals in points, rebounds, and assists. he had the 37-point game performance and 16 rebounds against Utah to force a game 6 back in LA, the game after Kawhi went down in game 4.
I agree. I just said that's one of the best games.
I just got to, I mean.
I'm giving them credit. I'm just saying they both deserve credit. I don't know about it was his playoff run. Because if they lose in the first round, Paul George would have taken the incoming for that too. It wouldn't have been Kawhi.
Wait, say it again.
If they had lost in the first round, Paul George would have got killed.
Yeah, and deservedly so.
Kawhi
That's why I'm
carried
saying.
them.
Deservedly
Kawhi
so.
carried them in the first round.
Deservedly so. If he got, that's why I'm saying when it's a bad thing, he gets the majority of the blame. That's but when it happens on his watch, that's why I'm gonna give the credit to majority. Because when we say, well, Kawhi and PG deserve credit, Kawhi didn't finish.
Yeah, but Kawhi did start, and Paul George, he was a little slow to start. And if they lost in the first round, it would have been because a lot of the blame would have gone on Paul George because Kawhi put up his numbers. He did his part. All right, but we don't got to relitigate this. Where do you think this Clippers team finishes in the standings? We got 10 games left. Do you think they hold on to top 6?
I think 6. I think they'll be the 6th seed. I'll be surprised if they drop to 7. I don't think they're going to drop to 7. I don't feel like if they drop this, you don't want to go into the play-in. Minnesota, Phoenix, Sacramento. I think they'll avoid the play-in and be in the top 6. What do you think?
I think if they got to go at least 8-2 the last 10 games. At least 8-2 to hold on to 6th. The prospect of Memphis, because of how tough their schedule is remaining and how they're not playing very good ball, dropping down is interesting because the Clippers have the tiebreaker over them. I could see a world where Memphis slides down to the point where the Clippers pass them. That is possible, and I didn't think it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I'm talking about we want Memphis to be the 2 seed, so the Clippers end up playing them in a first-round series. Now Memphis is playing so bad, they might end up in the play-in.
Yeah, Ja's hurt. I don't know. If they can get to the 5th seed, that would be ideal. It's gonna be the man who they match up with. That's why I'm not too concerned with the seed. I'm looking at who they're gonna match with. Are they gonna match with Denver? Are they gonna match with Houston? Are they gonna match with OKC? Or are they gonna match with LA Lakers? If you ask me the safe pick, I'd rather them face Houston. But I'm still a little bit worried about that series because the coaching, which you told me, you said if they lose in the first round to Houston, you don't think Ty Lue will get any flack.
No, I said there's no chance he gets fired. You've been talking about it on the Pull Up podcast like this is his make or break moment. You guys have been acting like he's going to get fired if they don't make a run this year. And I'm saying there's no chance.
Do you think that's the right decision? You wouldn't evaluate it. If you lose you think based off of the Houston's team that you're not saying it easy, but you're saying you're comfortable. If they underperform against a Houston team that has less talent and younger, which I do think they got experience with Dylan Brooks and Fred VanVleet and Jeff Green and Steven Adams.
That's fair.
They're going to have the best player against the Clippers, and you got your guy fully healthy. We saw Doc Rivers get fired the first year.
Bro, he didn't get fired because of that alone.
The bubble situation.
Fired because his entire tenure with the Clippers. He had already blown a 3-1 lead before.
But what didn't Lawrence Frank said he would be back coaching? Or did not Lawrence Frank? Somebody said right after the series ended he would be back and then he gets fired. like literally 2 weeks later.
So they
So
probably looked at the fact that he wouldn't play Ivica Zubac against Jokic and kept throwing Montrezl Harrell out there, and they lost all those minutes. Like
you don't think there was like a
you don't think
meeting
it was earned?
with Doc Rivers?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
Doc and Ty are the same person. He was his mentor. Ty was right beside Doc Rivers as the assistant coach. They're the same person.
Except one guy makes adjustments as a series goes along, and the other guy doesn't.
That's the one thing I will agree with.
Well, then they're totally different.
No, that's the one thing I will agree with. But it's such thing is you will make an adjustment and it will take too long, and you'll cost you the series. I
agree, but I haven't seen that with Coach Lue.
It will cost you the series.
Yeah, what series did he cost them?
I felt per se against the Suns the first 2 games. Now I know Kawhi wasn't present. One of those games, and you may recall this, when they played the Suns, they were up by a point, and DeAndre Ayton had that alley-oop dunk.
Yeah, game 2 when Paul George missed free throws.
Right. When he missed free throws, they were still up, right?
So we're going to put it on Coach Lue.
I'm putting it on Paul George and I'm putting it on Coach Lue. I'm giving you an example of when I say Ty Lue's coaching has cost them games, and I'm giving you in the series. He did it in the series against Dallas. Those first 2 games, overusing Patrick Beverley and Zubac to allow Luka Doncic to cause switch heavy defenses. He has done this before. He's played this small ball lineups with guys this is what I'll say, with even with him guarding bigs, he'll play the small ball lineup over and over. Like
but
this is
he costed them a series.
The Phoenix Suns series, I felt like they had a chance, and this may sound crazy, they could have beat the Suns in that series, even without Kawhi. They could have beat the Suns in that series.
And that's on Coach Lue, the reason they didn't.
Game 2. And Game
2 ended on a crazy-ass play. How is that on Coach Lue?
You had nobody protecting the basket. You had Zubac.
Ivica Zubac was on Ayton, and he let him push him out of the way. That's not on Coach Lue.
If there's 0.7 seconds left, or how much time was left on the clock, Adam? There was only one play you could run, in which they ran, was the alley-oop dunk. There was not enough time to get a shot up.
Hold on. Why are you holding Coach Lue accountable for Ivica Zubac getting pushed out of the way?
He's not by the basket. When you're the coach, you tell your player, protect the rim, because there's only one play that could be ran, and they ran it, was a alley-oop out of bounds play. See, this is the type of stuff that goes over.
Got pushed out of the way.
There was no way to push nobody if he was protecting the basket.
Bro.
There was no one by the basket. There would have been nobody to push if he was protecting the basket. That's what I'm trying to tell you. And then I see even last year against the Lakers with LeBron James went off in that fourth quarter. You have this heavy switch defense. You're having LeBron James, yet again, same thing with Luka Doncic. What he does, calls for a screen on top and gets the weak defender on him because you want to do this heavy switch. You don't want your players to fight through the screen. So all he does is get Kawhi Leonard off of him and get guys like Daniel Tice, get guys like Amir Coffey, PJ, all these other role players who can't guard on ball. That's your scheming.
Trying to put that game 2 loss on Coach Lue, I think it's totally unfair. He didn't.
I guess I can't. It's hard for me to explain it. I know that's why I'm saying I guess it's because it's different since I played. It's a little bit. It might be a little different. I get it.
What? Why? I hear exactly what you're saying.
I know you hear it. I'm just saying, like, it's different when you. And that's why I'm looking at the chat. I see a lot of people are saying, "What's this guy talking about?" the thing is, when you played, there's just certain things that a person can see and person can scout when a person that just didn't play. Nothing.
I think that's
Personally,
BS. I think it's BS.
how is it BS?
Because I can find somebody else who played and they're on my side and they're not on your side. Everybody has their own opinion, whether or not they played or not.
Do you think the majority of players who are in the NBA don't say the same thing, that if they played, it's a little bit different from seeing it from a guy who didn't play? Bro, it is what it is.
Those same people. Here's an example.
Okay.
All the guys for TNT, Shaq, Chuck, Kenny, they all played. So why are they always arguing with each other? Shouldn't they have the same viewpoint? Because they all played.
I'm talking about a person. No, they all played. So yeah, they can see certain things, but there's also when they have a person that didn't play and they've all said it, bro, this guy didn't even play, but he's talking as if he has the capability to know what a player is going through, because all they can relate to the game is just statistics and stats. But when you talk about feel of the game, when you talk about,
we can break. I can break down tape, and I didn't play. I can know what they're running, and I didn't play. Like, I don't think that's fair. I think that's people hiding behind arguments to say, "Well, I played and you didn't."
I'm not hiding. No, I can break down the game, play, and evaluate. That's the thing about me. I can break down the game. I'm
not saying you can't. I'm just asking. You're saying, well, I played, and therefore I see that final play in Game 2, Clippers and Phoenix, differently.
Yes.
How do you see it? Why do you see it differently?
Because I've been in those situations, bro. And that's something, again, like you.
What can't I understand about what you're describing?
Okay, I'm gonna say it again. The play that was ran was an out of bounds alley-oop backdoor play, right, to DeAndre Ayton. You're saying the fact that Zubac got pushed was the reason why he got that open dunk.
You got fouled straight up, but yeah.
If there was somebody near the basket, what happens? Somebody can tip the ball where Ayton won't get that alley-oop dunk. The play they ran was what Monty Williams saw was an opening. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying.
You think I can't understand that because I didn't play?
I'm not. No, you're going against what you're saying. Like, you don't understand how that could be on Ty Lue. That's what I'm going at. You said that's a coaching scheming. You tell, and that was a timeout. Your timeouts are to organize the team. And when you come out of a timeout, you're telling your players, look, protect the basket, protect the three-point line, no three-point shots. That is your job as the coach to tell the players.
Like, here's a perfect example. Jonathan says, I don't need to be in those situations to see Boogie taking the wrong angle to guard the basket on the inbound, and Zoo got fouled and missed the reaction to Ayton. I think there's a lot of stuff that happened in that play that has nothing to do with Coach Lue, nor the fact that they were even in that situation, because Coach Lue didn't miss those free throws. It was Paul George who did.
I know that, and they were still up.
So it's okay that he missed those because they were still up.
See, you're trying to angle this of me trying to avoid. It's not going to work, bro. I've already said he missed the free throws, but I'm not going to let you just get on him. But then when it comes to Ty Lue's coaching, he's done more times than not, over and over and over. It's funny how everybody's saying Ty Lue is so great after this game, but I'll go through Twitter and X, they want to move off of Brian Shaw. So it's not like what I'm saying just being pulled out the sky. I know
people love to hate on Coach Lue. I get it.
But why is it hate though? Why can it not just be no truth to it? Why has it got to be hate?
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, what I meant to say was I know people are critical of Coach Lue, and I'm not saying there isn't valid stuff. I do think though sometimes people take it too far, and my point would be this, BJ: like, who are you going to get that's better than him? Because you bring up players and people that are closer to the game and have played at a higher level that they know better. Well, every year there's that GM poll, and every year they vote Coach Lue the best in-game adjuster in the game. So what do you know that they don't know?
No, I'm saying off of this season, the whole niche was that we need to see Kawhi Leonard healthy. You gave him a 5-year contract, and all I said, I think that rubbed you the wrong way. And I asked you, what has he done to get a 5-year extension? That was my initial point, and you said, well, they're not going to move him, this, that, and the other. And then you,
No. I'll tell you what he's done. He hasn't lost them a playoff series. He's maximized their talent. He's had winning years even without Kawhi the entire year. With Paul George was just 31 games. I think the sign of a good coach to me is maximizing what you have to work with. And I think for the most part, Coach Lue has done that. The reason they haven't gotten further isn't because of Coach Lue. It's because guys keep getting hurt and his best player isn't available.
the year you're referring to, he didn't have his butt was 21-22 year, right? That's the only year that he's had his players for 4 out of 5 seasons.
No. In the regular season, some of the time, in the playoffs, he has not had Kawhi finish the series.
No. I'm saying in the season, you said he's had winning seasons. So that's why I said the only year you're going to refer to is the 21-22 year.
That was the most extreme year. But we can look back on how many games Paul George and Kawhi have missed in their Clippers tenure, and it's substantial.
Right. There's only 1 year that Ty Lue had to prove he can coach without Kawhi and Paul George the majority of the season. Every other year, the majority of the year, he had both guys.
Bro, that doesn't say much. The majority of the year he had both guys. They have missed so much time. They have missed significant time.
In the playoffs.
No,
not
in the regular season too. Aside from that year, they've both missed a lot of time in the regular season.
They played the credit that I'm going to give that he had to have his roster was 21-22, which was 3 seasons ago. Perfect. Great. There's not been another season in his tenure he had to do that. He's had Paul George and Kawhi every year in the regular season. He had them in 2020-21. He had them in 2019. He had them in 2020-21. He had them in 2023, and he had them in 23-2024.
Having them and having them for every game are two different things. They have missed.
Who plays every game now?
Bro, they have missed more than your average stars have over this 2-1-3 era. How is that argued?
You are not that low management is as high as it's been in his time. You're not playing more than most of the stars throughout the league. Go look at the stars, how much games they're playing. Go look at how many games Jimmy Butler plays a year. Go look at how many games Steph Curry plays a year. Go look at the games, how much Ja Morant plays a year. These guys are playing not no 70, 80 games no more.
I believe they have combined to miss around 300 games in the 5 years together. That's not normal. Coach Lue has not exactly had the best hand. You still there?
Stop.
BJ.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I got you.
My bad. Go ahead.
I'm saying there isn't much comparison to other teams and other stars. They have missed more games than the other team's 2 top players have in any franchise the last 5 years.
Are you talking? I'm going to say again, because I'm going back to what you said. You said he's had winning seasons. That's what you said.
He has maximized his talent.
In one season.
No. That's the most extreme example. That's the most extreme. But in all those other seasons, they still missed a lot of games.
He did not maximize the talent to the point where that was like basically like it was his coaching why he did it. They played enough games to be the 4th seed. You don't get the 4th seed. You don't get the 2nd seed, and you don't get top to say that these players weren't available. That's all you got to see. Kawhi and PG, if they were out so much, they would not be a 4th seed. They would not be a 2nd seed. That's not true.
They were the 4th seed twice under him.
2020-23 or 23-2024, and then 2022-23 they're the 5th seed. You're not a top seed if you're missing your star players all that much time. They're not missed. They were available enough to make an impact on those seasons. I'll give you the 22-23 year that Kawhi didn't play at all and Paul George only played 31 games. I will give you that. And I told Ty Lue this too. I said, what you did with the roster, I will give you that credit. So that's why I'm saying, if we're going to say that specific year, all for it. But again, is that what you're measuring him as? Just off that 1 year?
They ended up playing a total of 181 games next to each other, Kawhi and Paul George.
Right. And that's the playoffs too. Now tell me the winning percentage.
That's not a lot. That's not a lot.
What is the winning percentage of Kawhi and PG on the court?
They're almost at 700, but that's not the point. The point is they only played 181 total games on the court together. They missed a lot of games. It wasn't just the 21-22 season.
That was the only year Ty Lue's coaching was put in effective that was giving them that niche. That was the year people said he was the best coach. That was the year it started. Other than that, it ain't been no year that Ty Lue had to be forced to coach the team.
I don't know what your expectations were for Coach Lue when he doesn't have Kawhi consistently in the playoffs. I don't know what criticism there could really be. Like I said, it's about
you have Kawhi this year. That's what I'm saying. You have Kawhi this year, bro.
Oh, great. They've had him for 28 games.
Kawhi, you have him now.
They've had him for 28 games so far.
Right, in the playoffs. So if he's in the playoffs, that's what I'm saying.
If he's in the playoffs.
Yeah, you have no excuse. You saying James Harden is all world. You got top 5 center in the league. You got arguably the best 6. You have no excuse. You have the top 5 defense. You have no excuse.
I don't think what you think is an excuse, or the way you're framing it as an excuse, is fair. Saying you don't have your best player and being like, you're using that as an excuse. Using not having Kawhi as your best player isn't an excuse. That's a reason. That's an explanation.
Adam, I'm saying this specific year, you had an issue with me saying that Ty Lue will not be on the hot seat for this year. You have everything.
He's not. He's not, BJ. He just got a 5-year extension. What do you think? He's on the hot seat? He just got an extension. How could he be on the hot seat?
I guess my expectations are a little bit higher. I'm saying again, and this is why I say, I'm going to ask you again. My thing is, when I say Kawhi, if he's healthy, they're going to, I don't need all these extra. I'm saying, what do you feel? I'm asking people in the chat, what is the level the Clippers will get to if this team is healthy?
You're saying anything less than an NBA Finals run, if Kawhi is healthy, is a disappointment?
No, it's not a disappointment. I say he should get to the conference finals if Kawhi Leonard is healthy, at least.
But you also said earlier it's about matchups.
I have Kawhi Leonard. Adam, I don't give a damn what the matchup is. If again, and this is what we keep saying, you have a top 5 defense, you have a top 5 center, you have an all-world scorer, you have James Harden. Expectations should be conference finals. Why is that? What is there else to talk about? if they're healthy, why is that not an indictment on somebody if they can't get them past? You want your best player healthy, he's healthy. If knock on wood.
Not only does he need to be healthy, he needs to be playing at the Kawhi Leonard elevated playoff level, right? He needs to look like how he did against Phoenix in that series in 2023. If he looks like that, then yeah, they got a real shot. There's also other teams that are right there that are close in talent that should also be in the mix. I just don't think it's a given that, well, if you got Kawhi and he's playing this well, why wouldn't you make the Western Conference Finals? Well, you could end up having to play Luka and LeBron in the first round. That could be a reason. You could end up having to play Jokic in the first round. That could be a reason. There's other good teams out there too. It's not that easy. I just don't think – I think it's a little bit unfair to say, well, now Coach Lue has no excuse.
He doesn't.
Like, if they
You're gonna have
lost
to
to
show
Luka
that
and
you-
LeBron in 7 games, you'd be like, fire Coach Lue?
No, I'm saying this.
You cut out, BJ. BJ. I got you.
Well, no, I said the playoffs come down to coaching. You have to harden some of that burden. If your players
sure, some of it, but what's your point of? It seems like you got them on the hot seat. So I'm saying if they lost to Denver in 7 or the Lakers in 7 in the first round, you'd want Coach Lue out?
I've seen enough of Coach Lue. I will never call for a person's job, but I think that it's probably ran its course. I think the Ty Lue era has ran its course. That's what I truly feel. I think that what I saw from Brian Shaw and the philosophy that he uses, I think is better suited for a guy like Kawhi than what Ty Lue is offering. I think because he's seen Kawhi hurt so much, I think he leans more on Harden in his style. Maybe that's because he's more available, but I think there's a clear difference who Brian Shaw values.
So you're saying if they underperformed or they lost in 7, you would go B. Shaw?
I would go B. Shaw.
Off of 5 games.
I see. It don't take me long to see the philosophy. I'm looking at his philosophy and also I'm looking at his ability to make adjustments. It won't take him 2-3 games to make an adjustment. It won't take him all day to make the adjustment. He does it right throughout the span of the game.
So I'm going to ask again. Are the GMs stupid that vote Coach Lue as the best in-game adjuster every single season?
No.
What do you see that they don't see?
I never said his adjustments were not there. I said it takes too long for him to make adjustments. If you got a better option, you asked me who could be a different choice. And I just said that I think Brian Shaw makes adjustments quicker and better than Ty Lue.
All right. I think it's a pretty small sample size. And actually, we have more of a sample size of B. Shaw as a head coach, and I'm not sure about that. How
do you feel about him?
How do I feel about who?
B. Shaw.
I like B. Shaw. I like what we saw. I'd have to see a heck of a lot more to make a move like that. And I'll say this. He did something that could have blown up in his face.
What's that?
had Kawhi Leonard run down the clock and take that final shot instead of taking a shot. If you miss, you can still foul and you can extend the game and still win it that way. Like, if he misses that shot, that was highly questionable. But because he made it, hey, all is well. It's all good.
I mean, ain't that with your best player? You give the ball to your best player and you tell him to clear out?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you run out the clock. So if he misses, you don't even have a chance.
I think that was by design.
And I'm saying that's bad process. Why would you do that? It happened to It happened to work this time. But think about it. If he misses that shot and he takes it with 7 seconds left, they either can get an offensive rebound or they're only down 1. They foul the Kings. They go to the free throw line and they still have another shot to tie the game.
You wind the shot clock down so the other team can't have time to score.
But bro, you still have to score. Like, you shouldn't. That's bad process. Like, you have to you have to go step by step with it.
You had less than 24 seconds left. You want to hold the ball and wind the clock down so the other team doesn't have a chance to score the ball. That's why you wind the shot clock down.
The problem with that thinking is you still have to score first. What you should be worried about more than anything else is not what the other team could do if you make the shot too early. The point there is you have to prioritize just getting a shot. And
right,
getting as many as you can, which means not running out the entire clock. You don't
think that's what the great scorers do? They hold the ball.
That's not good strategy. It's not. It worked out that time, but that's not good process.
That's what the great scorers do. They wind the shot. You've seen Kobe do it. You've seen Jordan do it. You see LeBron do it. You've seen all the great scorers. They wind the shot clock down. You keep the ball in your hands to keep.
That's if it's a tie game. They're down 1. There's a difference. If you miss that and you're only down 1, you can still foul them even if they get the rebound on you, and you're going to get another shot.
If you
that's strategy.
You're trying to win the game. You're trying to win the game. If you're tied or you're down 1 point, you want the last shot. And if you miss the shot, you live with it. If you make the shot,
It's not the same. That's not strategy. That's why Coach Lou apparently got mad at him afterwards. As it was happening, I think Brian Seaman was shocked. The players out there were shocked because, again, if he misses, you still have another shot. You're only down 1. So you don't need to run the entire clock out. It doesn't make sense.
I disagree. I disagree. And who you think made that call? Was it Kawhi or Shaw?
It was Shaw.
And who did he play with?
He played with Kobe and Shaq.
Played with Kobe. Who was his coach?
Okay, great. Kobe lost a lot of those battles.
Nah, he beat a lot of teams in the West. They owned the West in the 2000s. He has the most buzzer beaters.
That because Kobe is an all-time great, that doesn't justify that strategy. That strategy it's a bad strategy. Because if you miss that shot, the game is over. Where if you didn't use the entire clock and you missed that shot, the game's not over.
But Kawhi's mindset was he's going to make the shot. See, when you have your mindset is, if Kawhi was against that, and Kawhi's a high IQ player, we can both agree to that. I don't think Kawhi was against what Bree Shaw called. He wanted the ball in his hands.
He's going to do what the coach says. Kawhi's like that.
Right, but I just my personal opinion and my thinking, they thought that better just to run the clock out, because if you shoot the shot too early and you give enough time for the other team to make a shot, they still have a chance to score. Kawhi's mindset is like, I'm going to end this game right here.
I get that.
That's why I think go ahead.
No, I get that. But I think when you're down 1, you got to make sure that you have to plan for, if he misses, we still have another opportunity. I think you have to plan for that. But neither here nor there. I like B. Shaw. I think he did a good job. Coach Lou's not getting fired. He just got an extension. I get that you would move on if they lose in the first round. I got to see how it plays out, first of all, to get all the context of how this first round series goes. And then I'll give my full assessment on how Coach Lou did.
If they lose in the first round, would you make any changes, or you just stay pat?
If they lose in the first round, it depends on how it happens, but I think the organization coming into this season saw this as a transitional year to start with, where they're going to be competitive, but they're still looking ahead because they're going to have $70 million to play with in 2026 and even more in 2027. I think they always were trying to be competitive while not sacrificing their future. And a lot of what they've done this season is overachieving.
So you think this was a year where they're not trying to compete for a championship?
Is if it means sacrificing part of their future, they would not make that move. Meaning they'll do anything as long as it doesn't price that future money.
But so are you trying to win a championship? What are you like? That's what I'm trying to figure. Like, what are you trying to do? Like, you have a top 5 caliber player in his prime right now. If you're not trying to
less than 30 games that we know is extremely injury prone.
Okay, so that's my question. Why keep him here if either A, you're worried about his health, or B, you're trying to worry about the future? Like, let him go to a team where he's going to be equipped to try to win Harden and Kawhi are on the same timeline right now. So it's like, my thinking was like, you're trying to win a championship. But it sounds like to me, you're saying they're worried about the future. Kawhi ain't going to be in the future. Harden ain't going to be in the future.
It's what I just said. They're trying to do both. Be competitive now and also worry about the future. Because the chances, first of all, with Kawhi being on his 3rd different knee injury since he became a Clipper, that's a big unknown. Does he come back? Does he come back and look the same? Can he still be a number 1 player on a championship team? Can he actually survive a playoff run? I think it would be foolish, based upon the history with Kawhi, to spend all this money to bet on him staying healthy at this point. I don't think that would be wise, based upon what we've seen the last 4 years. Now they're in a position where they still have all this money to use, and if Kawhi's healthy, they can still compete. No. To compete, yes. But if he's not healthy, they still aren't sacrificing all this money. So it's the best of both worlds. They didn't go out and get into the second apron and put themselves in salary cap hell. They're able to compete with a team they constructed now, if Kawhi is healthy, while still having all these opportunities in the future.
I just feel like you got to make a choice. Are you going to rebuild or are you going to compete? It can't be both. You can't rebuild and say I'm gonna worry about the future and compete at the same. That's not. You can't
It
do
kind
both
of
at the
is
same
both,
time.
though. According to you, you feel like they have a team good enough to get to the Western Conference Finals, right?
With Kawhi healthy, yeah, but that's not the majority of what Clipper Nation is saying. You got half split saying let go of Kawhi Leonard. You got the other half saying, well, if Kawhi Leonard's this, that we still have a chance. It just seemed like I'm not seeing what the organization, what you think they're thinking, because it's one thing for the fan base to say one thing, but if you're telling me that they want to focus on the future, there is no championship close without Kawhi Leonard on this team. So if you're going to
They're
focus on the
focusing
future,
on the future with having Kawhi. That's what I'm saying. They're doing both currently. They have a team. We all think the roster, if Kawhi's healthy, is competitive enough. And they haven't sacrificed money down the road that they can still use.
I didn't hear that coming into this season, bro. The expectations, you got people saying the expectations is too high coming into the season. And this was before Kawhi was.
I can't.
The expectations coming in this year were not championship.
I agree, but
weren't.
then we saw the defense and we said, okay, if the defense is really this good and they get Kawhi back healthy, now you got something, right? I think that's what the hope was from the front office the entire time, that the defense will be good enough to hold it down. James Harden and his system will take care of the offense without Kawhi. And then if you get Kawhi back, well, who knows what can happen? You can make some real noise. That's what I think it was.
Kawhi healthy, they got a chance. So
I mean, what else can you ask for but a chance? There's no guarantees.
No, ain't no guarantee. I'm just saying, like, if that's what it is, then we can't backtrack and say, like, we're expecting too much, or this was a year, like, they were trying to figure out what they were gonna. We can't have both ways. If you're going to go with Kawhi Leonard's healthy to win the champ or go for a championship, that's what it needs to be. If it's something we're just trying to, figure things out, that's what that needs to be. It can't be both at the same.
I mean, I think they're doing it though. Like, if Kawhi's healthy, look at it this way. If Kawhi's healthy, it's a bonus. But you can't rely on it. You obviously can't rely on it. They were able to be competitive without him, though. Not championship competitive. So then, if Kawhi's healthy, that turns you into a team that can maybe compete.
Okay.
I don't know. I feel like they've done a pretty good job of balancing it.
I think the team, how is the team constructed around Kawhi, and how
you can't construct a team around Kawhi. You don't know if Kawhi is going to be healthy.
I'm saying when he's on the court, I'm talking about the things that's the problem, bro. Like, see how we're already starting this off, we can't depend on him being healthy, and that's a reality. But why keep him then?
Because you're not getting much for him. It's not like every other team doesn't know his health situation.
There'll be teams that would take Kawhi Leonard.
And give up what is the point? Are you really going to get good value back for him?
The same way the Clippers have been betting on Kawhi Leonard all these years, and they've seen him get hurt over and over and over, is the same way another team would take Kawhi Leonard and look at his ability playing.
Bro, you're missing. Take him and give up what is what I'm saying.
That's not my place. I'm not in the front office. I'm saying if you're because the thing is, the question is more so who's going to take a Kawhi Leonard who has dealt with injury history. and the same team that extended him through a 3-year extension. It's the same, bro. Like there's teams that will take him. Because I mean, I guess so many people are saying like they're ready to get off of Kawhi. They're so tired of 2-1-3 era. Like,
The point is not just to trade him for nothing. Saying teams will take him doesn't mean anything. What are you getting back for him? Why are the Clippers going to trade him if they're not going to get much back for him? They might as well just keep him.
Well, if they're not getting up, but I don't think it'll be like they'll not get nothing back from him. If he goes into a playoff series this year, and he's playing at a high level right now, he was All NBA second team last year, and I think people forget that. As much as this guy's hurt, how the hell you All NBA second team?
I agree. You played 68 games last season.
So you're going to get something back.
I don't know. I don't know if you're getting much, to be honest. Now, maybe you're right. If he plays through the playoffs this year, let's say hypothetical, he stays healthy. He looks great in the playoffs. They make a little bit of a run. They make some noise. Then, yeah, it's possible with only 2 years left on his contract that they trade him after a healthy playoff run and you do get something back. I'm just saying before this hypothetical, I don't know what you were getting back. We still need to see if that can happen. Unfortunately, I got doubts on if he can play at a 10-level Kawhi playoff type style and also stay healthy, because that's going to put more on his knee. The harder, the more intense the playoffs are, I hope he can stay healthy, but it's going to be difficult.
We're going to see. We're going to see in the playoffs, man. We're going to see. I hope he stays healthy. I think he'll stay healthy. We're going to see.
All right.
I got
Good stuff, man. I appreciate
stuff.
you as always. It's all love. I was just fucking around last night. I wanted to see if you were listening when I first said that.
Nah, man. And like anybody, I know people in the chat a little bit up and down from what I'm saying, but like I say, anybody's welcome to come to mine. I'm always welcome to come on yours, man. So, it's all good, man. It's all love.
Guys, show BJ some love because the Pull Up Podcast format is one of the coolest out there. I just finally started to understand it. You literally can be in the chat, hanging out, listening to 5 or 6 guys, and then you could be the 7th guy. You click on the link, he brings you in. It's kind of like me with phone calls, but he gives you more of a platform and more of a place to voice your opinion. So check out the Pull Up Podcast. It's a really unique format. It's kind of something I've thought about for a while, but I guess BJ beat me to it.
We all good.
All right, man. Appreciate you. Good chat as always. Chat, be good. This has been another edition of Clippers Talk, 174 days straight. BJ, check him out on the Pull Up Podcast. We'll talk to you guys soon. Clips and Dip later tonight with Chuck and Will.